Hey guys. Part 8 of What If Naruto Was Sealed and Woke Up After 2000 Years. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 25, When in Slump, Get Help. Location: Omakure. As they fought their way through the mercenaries, Rex had only one thought. Maybe I should have waited for him to get out of that slump before asking him to help me. He was referring to Naruto, who was currently fighting each and every unfortunate merc with no mercy whatsoever. The blonde left many of them broken, crippled, or dead. Of the three, the last would have been the most merciful. And it wasn't just how he fought either. Ever since Vermeer, he hadn't been his usual self. He was curt with the crew, kept to himself, and brooded quite a bit. The Krogan knew where he was coming from, having lost a few friends in his mercenary years. It was hard to not see them there anymore, but one usually got over it. But he made the mistake of mentioning that to the Spectre, and it turned into comparing how many people they'd lost. The shinobi won by a good deal. Rex figured it was because he had more people he had cared for. "Commander, please don't get too far ahead of us," Ashley shouted at the blonde. He didn't reply. He just kept moving, attacking, and shooting. "If you don't want him to get too far ahead, keep up the pace, mate," Maya told her, moving past her to keep up with the blonde. "In case you haven't noticed, we're clearing rooms at a fast rate." That was underselling it. By the time they reached a room, the mercs would already be dead and Naruto would be moving on to the next. "I did notice." "Just keep moving," Gers told them, moving past them to stay close to the Spectre. The rest of them had no other choice but to follow him and by extension, the blonde, as he led a trail through the rooms of the building. All of this because of one request, Rex thought to himself. Flashback. His shotgun was fine. The sights were on point, and there was no problem with its firing rate. He knew this, but he already knew that not inspecting one's weapons was an invitation to get killed. As the Krogan put his weapon away, he noticed the blonde walking into the hangar. "Hey Uzumaki," he called out. He stopped halfway to the sparring droid. "What is it, Rex?" he asked, turning and walking over to him. "If you've got the time, there's something I want your help with. I need to recover something that was stolen." "What, did someone steal your favorite gun when you weren't looking?" he asked with obvious sarcasm. "No, not that," the Krogan answered. "Before I left Tuchenka, I made an oath to my father's father to recover my family's battle armor. It was taken from him during the uprising." "Is that important?" He shook his head. "It's a relic, but it was worn by 5 generations of my family before the war. It's rightfully mine." Naruto said shortly. "So why was it taken? You Krogan usually don't let your weapons go willingly, or your armor." "You're right about that," he agreed. "After the war, it was taken by the Turian military. Now it's in the hands of Confronting Actus." The blonde looked a little confused by the name. "A Turian scum who collects relics from the war," he explained. "He's made millions selling Krogan artifacts that were stolen from my people." "And what do you want me to do about it?" "Help get it back, obviously," he said with a snort. "That'll be hard if I don't know where he is." "That won't be a problem. The guy is scum, but he's also a showboat." He activated his Omni tool and sent the email. "Here, take a look at this. It's an article I found recently." The blonde activated his own Omni tool with ease, which was a little weird. Even after figuring out how to use it, he was still fumbling a little before Vermeer, and read the email. This is about him boasting about his new house. There were pictures too. It looked like a mansion to him. Yeah, his new house where he's kept the most precious of relics he has found throughout his years of experience. And if the armor of the Urdnot clan head isn't a most precious relic, I don't know what would be. "Does this article have an address we can use?" he asked, looking up from the article. "It's right there at the bottom." He made sure there was an address. It was on Omakure, a Turian world. Bastard must have thought he was safe there. Good. Naruto closed the article and deactivated his Omni tool. "I'll go tell Joker where to go." He turned around and went for the elevator. "Commander, I want to be the one to end his life," he called out to the blonde shinobi. No promises, he replied as he stepped into the elevator. It's not much, but it helps, the Krogan thought. If he retrieved the armor and then went back to Tuchenka, it would make more of an impact. And when it came to the clans on the homeworld, every little bit helped. He was just glad the commander was helping out. End flashback. That had been the initial feeling. Then they had gotten to Omakur, landed at the nearest spaceport, went straight to the mansion where the scum was living, and then Naruto promptly, and literally, kicked the front doors down. The damn things flew across the entire front yard, which was big enough to land the Normandy in, taking out 2 mercs in the process. That had started the fight, and Rex could admit, it was quite effective. It just left a lot of bodies that were broken and or dead in their wake, something that didn't usually happen with the blonde. But to the Krogan's mind, if it works, it works. They had already cleared out the front yard, the entrance hall, and the first floor. Now they were standing before a large, grandiose and gaudy staircase that spiraled upward and downward. Ugh, this guy has no taste whatsoever, Isabu declared when he saw the staircase. Who the hell puts that much gold and gems in a rail? Like you said, a guy with no taste, son told the Sambai. So, which was do we go now? Ashley asked as she looked at the stairs and feeling a little more than put off by it. It was just in bad taste. Do you think that the goodies are all upstairs? Maya looked upwards as she spoke. Her question, though, got her a dirty look from Rex. Those goodies, as you call them, are artifacts from Tuchenka, going back a long time. Some of them would probably be even from long-dead clans. Show a little more respect. Sorry, geez, she said in reply. What clans are you talking about, Rex? Liara asked the Krogan, her eyes alight with curiosity. She might have been an expert on the Protheans, but anything that had been long dead could get her attention. Only you, Shalia, only you, Maya said, rolling her eyes with a smile. Focus, Naruto said shortly, getting their attention back. Gurus, Liara, Maya, and Tali, go up. Rex and Ash, you're coming down with me. The battle master gave him a look. You do realize there's probably going to be more guards down there, right? Do I look like I'm fresh out of the academy to you? He asked back, giving the same look he was getting. Tali's curiosity cut into the stare-off. What makes you think it's going to be heavily guarded down there? She asked them. They both looked at her. The guy we're going after is scum, Rex told her. The general rule with scum is that when they're in danger, they burrow and put everything that could stop invaders between him and them while he escapes, Naruto said as he climbed up on top of the rail. If that's true, then shouldn't more of us go down there? Liara asked him while also wondering why he was standing on the railing. No need, he told her, pulling out his guns. He hadn't used them yet. Another law of the universe, scum always hires shit for guards, for they will believe anything the guards will tell them to get hired. He channeled his chakra to his feet. Once they were secured to the rail, he crouched down and leaned forward. Gravity took care of the rest as he started sliding down the rail. He picked up speed as he went, disappearing from sight. While the rest stared at the railing, figuring out what they had just seen, Ashley got up onto the railing too. You coming or not? She asked Rex. I'll actually take the stairs, thanks, he told her. Once she started sliding down, he followed on the steps. The rest of them just shared a look and went up the stairs, ignoring the sheer gaudiness of it. Are you trying to be this deliberately reckless and stupid? Kurama chastised his Jinchuriki as he slid down the rail. What? I've done this before, he replied. He leaned into the curve, keeping his momentum. He passed a guard and shot him. It happened in about 5 seconds and he kept on sliding. The rail was in a downward spiral on the inside, which gave him room to shoot anyone who tried to stop him. You flew off the last time and almost broke your leg. The key word there is almost. The QB didn't have anything else to say. He knew what the blonde was doing. He had gotten like this before, when he had lost people during the war. The closer he knew them, the worse it had been. It usually had taken one of the Konoha 12 to bring him out of it. The one time they couldn't, he had begun working on that seal. But now, the Konoha 12 weren't here and that was a problem in and of itself. As he slid down the rail, Naruto could hear someone behind him. Must be Ash, he thought. He kept his attention focused on where he was sliding. The rail ended in what looked like a wine cellar. He hopped off, wobblingly slightly in the process. Because of that, he didn't land on his feet. Instead he rolled, coming out of it safely. There, see? he said to Kurama. You still didn't land on your feet, the fox told him. When did you get to be a perfectionist? Kurama could only shake his head in exasperation and sadness. It's going to take something good to pull him out of this one, he thought. And I have no idea what that something is going to be. Ashley landed near him and had her rifle at the ready, as well as her Sharingan. Where's Rex? He asked. He's taking the stairs, she answered. They could both hear him coming down the steps. If the blonde had wanted to put a description to it, he would have called it a loud shinobi getting off duty and heading for the nearest bar. Cammy knows he had heard plenty of those. Nice of you to wait for me, the Krogan said once he got to their side. It took you long enough, Naruto said shortly. Let's move. Ashley nor Rex followed him into the wine cellar. Just like they knew, there were guards down here. A normal person would wonder why there were guards down in the wine cellar. A suspicious person would wonder where the secret exit was. The three just started shooting. The guards kept trying to stop them, but between the fact that they weren't that good, hence why they were shit, and the mood Naruto was in, they didn't stand much of a chance. The Spectre didn't even bother to shoot his guns. Instead, he used the hilts to bash their brains in. He didn't care how he took his enemies down, just that they were down. That meant a lot of bodies into the walls, ceiling, and wine racks. Commander, you're breaking a lot of the wine down here, Ashley said, watching him throw a guy against a nearby rack, destroying it and the wine it held. There were plenty more destroyed racks left in his wake. And your point is? He asked. He broke a guard's leg, then brained him, and moved on. The guard laid on the floor, moaning in pain. It stopped once Rex put a bullet in him. I just thought that you might want to be a little more careful, that's all. She had seen a few labels that her mother would gladly sell an arm and a leg to get. Some of the stuff down here was damn pricey. But it seemed that the commander didn't see that. It's something you drink. That's it, he said, delivering a hard kick to a human guard's crotch, making him fall down into a blubbering mess. As you say, sir? There was no point in continuing the conversation. All she could really do was avoid the incoming fire and shoot back, taking out her targets with her Sharingan helping. Meanwhile, the guards were not having a good day. What in the name of the goddess will it take for them to just die? Demanded Inasari, as she watched the human wreck everyone in front of her. Suddenly her shotgun, large and powerful, seemed more like a block in her hands. How the hell should I know? Said a Turian trying to hide behind a wine rack. Why did we take this job anyway? The pay was good and all we had to do was look menacing, that's why. Like I said before, shit, Naruto thought. He grabbed a Solarian, broke his arm and shoulder in one move, then tossed him over his shoulder. Oh shit, here they come, the Asari said, noticing how the three of them were getting closer. The Turian tried not to panic, but it was hard considering the destruction he was seeing. What should we do? He demanded. The other mercs looked at her, wanting an answer. Does it look like I know? You're the one who got us hired for this job. What's that got to do with anything? Are you kidding me? Hey, it was my turn as spokesperson, that's all. They're still coming this way. Oh, by the goddess, what are we going to do? Here's an idea, shoot them. Like that's going to work. Look what happened to the rest of the guys. Maybe they'll let us go, one of them suggested, looking at the enemy coming towards them, doing his best to ignore the dead and massively wounded in their wake. Could you please let us go? That earned him a bullet in the leg. Fuck. Really? A fellow merc said. What the hell made you think that would work? He got a bullet in the stomach about 10 seconds later. What's with these people? Naruto asked, breaking a leg in mid-step and tossing the guy at a wine rack. Shit isn't usually so chatty about their doom. They usually try to bluff and swagger their way out of this kind of thing. That would be because you're not giving them the chance to bluff and swagger their way of this kind of thing, Gyuki told him. Oh, okay. Might as well keep doing it. A Turian tried to be brave and rushed him. He bashed the wrist, making him drop his gun, and threw him off to the side, almost tearing out his arm in the process. Some of the Biju winced at that. How about a little restraint there, Naruto? Isabu suggested. Why? He had butted another Turian to the ground. By now, the wine cellar was empty of mercs, either on the ground or having fled through the door at the back. They went through the door themselves, entering into what looked like a large break room. The remaining guards had barricaded themselves in a corner with a lot of couches and chairs. In front of the barricade were the bodies of guards that didn't make behind it in time. There were more than a few. "Please don't kill us," shouted out one voice, an Asari from the sounds of it. She sounded quite young. "Will you shut up?" Another Asari, an older one, told the first. "Do you want to die?" "I know I don't," a Solarian's voice chimed in. "No one was asking you, you goddess damned lizard." Naruto just waited, watching the barricade with something that could faintly be called amusement. "Put a cork in it, woman," a human ordered her. "If you keep talking, that guy is going to kill us." "He's one guy. He's Naruto Uzumaki, Celis. That's a death warrant if I've ever heard of one." She scoffed at that, quite loudly. "Please, Naruto Uzumaki is a myth, a legend. If you'd get your human head out of your race's stupid and idiotic stories, you would realize that. Did your mother ever tell you it was rude to talk about someone when they were in the room with you?" Naruto asked, projecting his voice to the barricade. Ashley and Rex wondered why he wasn't tearing through them like an akimichi through meat, one more than the other. The talking fell silent at his voice. "Sorry, Lord Uzumaki," the human apologized. "Please don't kill us. He is not Naruto Uzumaki. Get your head back into reality, Kuro," Celis told him. "Celis, shut up for once in your life." "Sorry about that, Lord Uzumaki," he quickly said. "She's an Asari who doesn't care about anything that isn't her race." "Then how are you here?" Naruto asked shortly. "Just because she's like that doesn't mean she won't hire non-Asari." There was a paused moment. "It's a bit hypocritical, if you ask me." "I didn't," the blonde said curtly, stopping the way the conversation was going. "And to be quite frank, I don't care about you pieces of shit. All I want is Actus. Where is he?" "No one says a word," ordered Celis. He tracked the voice. She was just off-center behind the barricade. "You all want to die. My friends and I can make it happen." Next thing that the Normandy team heard was the sound of a quick scuffle and then someone being knocked out. "What was that?" Ashley asked, shifting her rifle at the barricade, ready to open fire if she had to. "Nothing to worry about back here," Kuro spoke again. "We were just knocking Celis out. She was being a counterproductive bitch." "Where is Actus?" Naruto repeated himself, still waiting for the answer. A hand came up from behind the barricade and pointed off to the opposite side of the break room. "He's down that way, saying that he had a way out and wanted us to make sure he got out safely," a Turian quickly explained, jabbing the air rather rapidly at the door in question. "Thanks," he said, turning to the door. Rex and Ashley fell in behind him. What about us?" asked Kuro. He and the rest of the mercs were still hiding from behind the barricade. He stopped at the door, not turning to look back. The pause that followed felt suffocating. "If I get back and you lot are still here, it's open season," he finally said with a short tone. "And I'm not in a mood for taking any prisoners." He and his squad walked through the door while the guards behind the barricade quickly scrambled out and ran for their lives, the sound of which was muffled by the closed door and faded rapidly. "Commander, you know there's a good chance that they're going to run into Maya and the others, right?" Ashley asked Naruto. "Yes," he answered shortly, walking through the door. There was a long corridor ahead, but they could see the door. "And that doesn't bother you? Do you have something to say, or are you going to keep asking stupid and pointless questions?" Seeing that she wouldn't get anywhere with him, she fell silent. "Hey, Commander Naruto," Maya's voice said through the calm. "What is it?" Naruto said abruptly, touching his calm. "The upper levels are cleared. There weren't a lot of guards up here." "What a surprise," he remarked sarcastically. If anyone on the other side of the calm could hear it, they didn't say anything about it. "We found some interesting things up here. A piece of Krogan armor, what looks like some sort of bladed weapon, and some bits and pieces of carvings on rocks. I think these are parts of Krogan poetry," Liara said, joining the conversation. "That actually exists?" Gurus asked, completely surprised. "Yes, Gurus, it exists," she told him. If they could see her, the team in the basement would have seen her roll her eyes. "How can you tell whether it's poetry or not?" asked Tali. "I minored in Krogan history while in the university," she answered. There was a moment of silence. "What?" "Sorry, Shalia," The thought of a Krogan history minor just sounds a little far-fetched, that's all, Maya told her. No offense, Rex, she said quickly through the comm. Rex just rolled his eyes as he followed the specter down the corridor. Why should I care about what the Asari studied in university? I didn't go there. It was something that helped round off my degree. After that, I focused more on the Protheans, Liara told them all. From what I can make out on this piece, it looks like the writer was talking about a female, and there was a lot of swearing involved. What kind of swearing? Gurus asked. When it came to poetry, swearing could have meant that they were taking an oath. At that moment, the Turian was glad to have taken that poetry class in school, even if it had been to impress a girl. The kind you shouldn't let children hear, she answered. Oh my, she said after a moment of silence. I don't think that should even be written down. That must be the romantic age, Rex said offhandedly. That got him a look from Ashley, he would have gotten one from Naruto, if the blonde wasn't in the mood he was in. We had a romantic age, he told her once he saw the look. Is that so hard to believe? Just a little, she told him. On the other hand, maybe we now know where Rex gets his love of poetry, Gurus commented over the comm, and it would explain why there are so many exclamation points in his poems. When the hell did you read my poems? Rex demanded. He had me hack your Omni tool when you were asleep, Tali answered, making it sound she had borrowed a pair of pants from him. He stifled a snarl, but he did have something else to say. Vicarian, when this is all done with, you and I going to have a little talk. And if you're lucky, I won't break too many bones in your body. Shouldn't you be making that threat once that talk had started? The Turian asked him. Enough, Naruto said without stopping. They were at the door. Gurus, take your team back to the main floor. If you find any guards still kicking and they try to kill you, kill them first. Aye, Commander, he said. The comm went silent. The blonde opened the door without any hesitation. Beyond it was a large museum-like room that probably would have made Liara drool if she saw it, more so if it had been filled with Prothean artifacts. Not only were there Krogan artifacts in the room, there were also human ones as well. At the other end was a Turian trying to type in a password into a door. What is wrong with this? He shouted to himself as the screen in front of him flashed red. That is the password. Not just scum, but an idiot as well, Naruto thought. Once they were inside, he had Tali hack in and do a basic reset of the entire place. Which was why the Turian there couldn't get through what was most likely his escape hole. Rex made a annoying cough, getting the attention of the Turian. Who the hell are you? He demanded when he saw the three of them, his eyes wide and panicked. Naruto looked at the Krogan. Confronting Actus, right? The blonde asked, taking a step forward. Stay back, he shouted. He grabbed a big gun off a nearby wall, waving it around. Yeah, that's the scum, all right, Rex said. How do you know? Ashley asked. You mean besides the fact that he's the only Turian in the room and was trying to escape? He asked back. The armor over there on the stand belongs to my grandfather and hence, me. He gestured at said rack. There stood his family's armor, just like his grandfather described to him. Well, at least we know it's him, Naruto said, taking another step forward. He scanned the room, taking in the artifacts. One thing caught his attention, making him come to a stop. I said stay back. Actus screamed, waving the gun around. I know how to use this thing. Why wasn't this human taking him seriously? But the blonde's attention wasn't on him anymore. It was on a wall, where a grand collection was set. It was something that he hadn't seen in over 2,000 years and would never have thought to see here. Even some of the Biju were surprised by what they saw. That can't be them, Isabu protested. It's them all right, Saiken assured him. They both knew them well enough. Those weren't forgeries. The Sanbai got angry. Naruto, that Turian is a dead man. Make him tell you where he got them and then make him pay. Saiken nodded, equally furious. Hey scum, Naruto called out to the Turian. Where did you get these? He gestured at the wall. Step away from them. Actus ordered him, swinging the gun around. Step away or I will blow your head off. I mean it. Ash, shoot his kneecap off, he ordered. The Turian went down to the floor with a scream of pain, dropping his big gun. He would have wriggled around in agonizing pain, but a hand grabbed his upper jaw and dragged him over to the wall, adding to his pain. I'm going to ask you again and I want an answer, Naruto said as he released his grip on the Turian's jaw and placed his foot on the now destroyed kneecap. Where did you get the 7 swords of the mist? He forced the scum to look up at the swords, from Samahata to Nuabari, hanging on the wall. Actus might have tried to lie his way out of the situation, but his destroyed kneecap was being pressed down on, engulfing him in immense waves of pain. I got them from a contact. His words were cut off when the foot pressed down harder, intensifying the pain. Shanshi! I found them on Shanshi! He screamed out. The pressure eased off just a little. The words came rushing out. They were just lying there in the rubble, and I figured they might be worth something. So I shot the only humans still alive and took them all. Those last words enraged the blonde. You shot the only person who was still alive just so you could steal from the dead? You could have saved that person. She was barely breathing. I did her a favor. A favor? He repeated. Is that what you call it? He tossed the Turian away and went for the wall. Sorry, Rex, you can't kill him. Why not? Asked Rex, his trigger finger feeling itchy. It would be too quick and too merciful. I don't plan on giving him that. Then how is he going to die? Painfully, and with a lot of screaming. He reached out, took a hold of Samahata, and promptly dropped it on the floor. Wake up, he ordered, kicking it. That's a sword, Uzumaki, it doesn't wake up, Rex said. It was a sword wrapped in cloth, but still a sword. So, naturally, he was surprised when scales burst out of the cloth and touched the ground, allowing the sword itself to rise up. When it had risen to the height it wanted, it turned and growled the blonde specter. None of that, Naruto told it with a sharp tone. The growling stopped abruptly at those words. The sword somehow looked at him. He never knew how it could do that without eyes, a curious hum vibrating from the cloth. You know who I am. You had my chakra back when I was 12 and you belonged to Kisame. It seemed like the sword understood the words being said. The curious hum disappeared, replaced with a purr of acknowledgement. Nice to see you too, it's been a while. How the hell can you understand that thing? Rex demanded. He knew that with the blonde, things were bound to get odd. But this was taking it just a little too far. He was talking to a sword that had scales and it understood him for fuck's sake. Samahata swung itself to look at the Krogan and hissed. Easy, Naruto told it. He doesn't know about what you can do. The hissing stopped, but there was still a growl of warning. Yes, if he disrespects you one more time, you'll eat him alive. But I don't want you to eat him. The growl was replaced with the curious hum. Yes, he's not a human. He's something called a Krogan. Sir, could we move this along? Ashley asked him. They didn't come here so he could have a conversation with the sword. She was less surprised that the sword was sentient, and more surprised that he understood what it was saying. Samahata directed its hum at her. Yes, she's human and yes, she's a shinobi, Naruto told it. But I don't want you to eat her either. He looked over at the sobbing Turian on the floor, clutching his knee. He's the one I want you to eat. What? Screamed Actus, his sobbing stopping for a moment. He couldn't have heard that right. The sword was curious as to why it had to eat this alien when the other looked much meatier and tastier. Its louder hum said as much. Was your last wielder a woman? Naruto asked it. It purred in the positive. Was she the only one on the team this time? It hissed in the negative. How many women were on the team this time? It was silent for a moment, like it was thinking about it. Then one of the scales tapped the floor 3 times. Actus didn't like where this was going. Please don't kill me, he blubbered. He would give anything to get out of this alive. Shut up, the blonde told him before turning his attention back to the sword. So, there were 3 women and one of them was your wielder, right? Samahata purred in agreement, and then hummed curiously again. Why do I want you to eat him? It's simple, really. He looked at the Turian, his face filled with hatred. He's the one who took you and the others from the dead hands of your wielders. What's more, one of them was still alive and he shot her so he could get away with them. Slowly, the sword turned to look at the weeping Turian. A growl began to emit from it, slowly filling the room and getting louder until it started to rattle what was hanging on the walls. Actus outright panicked at that growl. Don't kill me. I don't want to die, he screamed. Rex could only look at the scum in disgust. I wanted to kill this guy, he thought. What a pathetic waste of skin. It appeared that the sword did not share his sentiment. It kept growling, scuttling in place, It was enough for Actus to try and start crawling away. Neither Ashley nor Rex tried to stop him. He was not going anywhere. You want some help? Naruto asked Samahata. It nodded once. How it could actually do that and realize what it meant, Rex did not know, and he did not want to know. The blonde reached for the base of the sword and undid the knot. The cloth fell away and revealed Samahata in all its glory. Those who had not really known about the sword of the 7 shinobi swordsmen quickly discovered 3 things. 1. The sword had no actual blade. 2. It was completely made of sharkskin scales. 3. Where the tip of the sword should have been was a mouth. And said mouth was big, had many teeth, and was looking rather hungrily at Actus. He understood the implications quicker than the others would have given him credit. Ah! He screamed, trying to get away faster, crawling across the floor. Don't kill me! If it hurt him, it didn't show, it was a sword after all. It scuttled across the floor, following the blood, and pounced on him in a matter of seconds, its jaws wide open. With no hesitation, Samahata ate him alive. It was not quick, it was not painless, and it was most certainly not merciful. Ashley and Rex could only watch in silence. Actus's screams of fear mixed with screams of pain, eventually mixing into one incoherent sound. The sword was methodical and thorough, yet still managing to make it look incredibly messy. Blood and guts galore were everywhere. It didn't help that the Turian just would not stay still. He was trying to alternatively fight off the sword or get away, but it was proven pointless quickly. When it was done, all that was left of the Turian was a bloody spray on the floor. Samahata was on the floor next to it, purring contently. That was just a little more than disturbing, Rex declared, staring at the sword, or whatever the hell it was. And I want you two to consider where those words are coming from. They were coming from a Krogan who had seen and lived through a lot of gruesome things. Considered and noted, Naruto said as he laid the cloth over Samahata. Both Ashley and Rex weren't surprised to see the cloth wrap itself over the sword and create the knots that held it in place. Even though that happened, the sword was still purring. Sir, is it sleeping? Ashley asked, almost not believing it. She had read about Samahata, but to see it with her own eyes was something else entirely. It felt a little weird to see it sleeping after such a gruesome sight. Most likely, he replied, pulling out a scroll and rolling it out on the floor. Once there was ample paper rolled out, he went back to the wall and began taking the rest of the swords off it. He placed them down on the paper. Then he carefully brought Samahata over as well. What are you doing? Rex asked. Sealing them away so it'll be easier to hand off to the Alliance, he answered, making sure that they were all properly on the scroll. Once that was taken care of, it was hardly any trouble to seal them away. He rolled up the now precious scroll and placed it in his pocket. I believe you were here to find a set of armor? He asked the Krogan pointedly. Yeah, I was. He stomped over to the armor rack and looked at the family armor. I can't believe that my ancestors wore this piece of crap, but at least I've got it back. He reached out to touch the armor, almost hesitating at the last moment. Then the hesitation disappeared and he laid his hand on the helmet. Both Ashley and Naruto looked at it. Naruto was the one who said the obvious. It's pink. Yes, so? Asked Rex. Pink has always been a color of Clan Erdnot. And you're forgetting the other color on that armor, Kurama told him. I could see the white fox, he replied. Ashley decided to expand on what her commander had said. Wow, that's a lot of pink, Ashley stated. If Rex was going to wear that, she didn't know if she could hold in her laughter. She didn't know if anyone on the team could. The Krogan battlemaster looked at her. You got a problem with the colors of my clan? He asked with a challenge in his voice. No, I don't, she rapidly assured him. In fact, she thought the pink on the armor went well with the white, from a purely artistic view. The two of them complemented each other wherever they met on the armor. It was a simple but elegant design. Good. Hurry it up, Rex, Naruto told the Krogan. We don't have all day. I'm going. Not all of us have sealing scrolls, he replied. He took the armor of the rack. He was surprising gentle. Commander, Joker spoke through the comm, getting the blonde's attention. What? He asked. There's someone on the line who wants to talk to you, said it was vitally important for the Alliance, and would only speak to you. He looked over at Ashley and Rex. I'll be in the corridor, he told them. He walked outside the room without waiting to see their reaction. Who is it? Greetings, Commander, a digitized voice spoke. I would say that is nice to see you again, but you wouldn't believe it. You're damn right I wouldn't, he growled, knowing full well who was on the other end. Actually, he didn't know who it was, but he did know who it belonged to. There's no need to take that tone with me. Believe it or not, Commander Uzumaki, but the Akatsuki have need of your skills. Do you honestly think I would willingly help you? If the right situation was given? The voice asked. Yes. Funny, very funny, he said back. Now fuck off. But you haven't even heard what I was going to tell you. I promise you, Commander, this is something that the Akatsuki needs your help with. The tribe of Athame has done something that we had thought they could do but hadn't thought that they would do so in such a quick time. As such, we can't properly respond in time to prevent their success, but you can. And what exactly did they do that sent you into a panic? They kidnapped one Hanabi Hyuga, the daughter of Niji Hyuga and Leisha Legos, and the only non-human in the galaxy able to use chakra. I believe that you had gotten to know her during your time on Thesha, correct? The entire Normandy team, both upstairs and downstairs, would always claim afterwards that the entire building shook when Naruto roared what? Location: Citadel. Musashi and Rin were on the trail of one of the kidnappers. Ever since the ambush, they had been intent on finding the huntress. But she proved to be elusive, a shadow that was gone before they even saw her. So, instead of going after her directly, they went after her subordinates. It took some doing, and a sleepless night or two, but they were able to track down one of the kidnappers, a Turian. They didn't have a name, but they did have a photo. The Turian's distinguishing feature was a thick scar that ran across his face, so they decided to name him Scar. They tracked him to an apartment complex. Are we certain that he's here? Rin asked Musashi. They were across the street, watching the complex for any movement. He's here, he said. Room 214. He made sure of his information before they even came here. She looked at the floor in question. There was movement behind the windows, but that was just people in their own apartments. Normally, I'd ask if we have a warrant for this. We don't have one. Besides, we're not taking him in. We're going to ask him questions. They didn't need a warrant for that. He looked over at her and Shiramaru. You ready? She didn't answer verbally. The look on her face was all the answer he needed. Together they entered the complex. The attendant at the front desk was mollified when they showed their badges and assured her it was a routine questioning. They didn't have any problems as they walked up to the apartment door. Once it opened, revealing Scar, they moved. Shiramaru barged in first, grabbing his leg with his teeth. The hound dragged him into the room and the humans followed, closing the door. Musashi drew his bakken and held it against Scar's throat. Right now you're thinking that this can't hurt you, he said, his voice cold. Trust me, it can hurt you and it will hurt badly. So unless you want to be breathing through a new windpipe, I suggest you answer our questions. Sure, go ahead, Scar said, calm as the day. Be sure to arrest me too. He looked at the two humans. That's what you do, after all. Where's the huntress? Rin asked, ignoring that last part. Not on the Citadel. She's busy somewhere else. But I'm sure that she'll be back. He smirked at them both. She has to report to the council about her success. What success? Musashi demanded. The success of our first kidnapping. She wasn't there on Earth for the takeaway, but she will be the one who for the pickup and handoff. The humans looked at one another. The kidnappers went to Earth? Were they insane? The Nebula Gang incident should have been enough of a warning. Who are they kidnapping? He asked. Someone who doesn't truly belong there. An Asari. His smirk turned condescendingly smug. If you don't know which Asari, I pity you. Neither Musashi or Rin demanded, he explained. They knew the Asari he was talking about. All of humanity did. Hanabi Hyuga became a minor celebrity when it was announced to the galaxy that she had chakra. The only reason her fame was minor was because the Hyuga clan shielded her from reporters and such. And now she was kidnapped? Did her family know about this? They had to. Scar saw their recognition. Ah, so you do know. There's nothing you can do about it, he told them certainly. She'll be long gone by now. Shut up, Rin ordered. He ignored her. What? Did you think we only did kidnappings on the Citadel? How ignorant can you be? Whatever their answer was, he didn't care. You might as well arrest me. He held out his hands to be handcuffed. Please make it quick. There's a game on tonight, and I want to make sure I get out in time to catch it. The humans looked at him for a long moment, studying his face. Has a game to catch, does he? Musashi remarked. Rin nodded. Yes. He must really think booking and getting bail will be that fast. That's if we arrest him. That got Scar's attention. What? You know something? She said rhetorically. You're right. We tried to question, he refused and got violent. We were made to use lethal force when he started shooting. And since we couldn't find proper identification, there won't be a proper investigation. Musashi looked at Rin. Sound about right to you? Yes, it does. Shiramaru, release. Her partner did as he was told. Musashi withdrew his Bakken and pulled out his gun. Scar tried to protest. Wait, you can't do this. You're supposed to do this by the book. Really? Musashi asked. He didn't wait for answer before shooting the Turian twice in the chest. The two cops quickly arranged the scene to their story. By the time they called it in, informing the desk attendant in the process, they knew how to play it. But they were concerned about Hanabi Hyuga. This was news that had to be brought to Ambassador Yudina. Location, the Normandy. After they were done at Omakure, the Normandy itself left rather quickly. Joker could see Naruto was on a fuse that was getting shorter and shorter as time continued. Which was why he didn't use any of his usual wisecracks when the Spectre came to him and gave him coordinates. He just flew the ship to the coordinates. They turned out to be just a patch of space, quite boring really, which he would have remarked about out loud, if not for that fuse. The patch stopped being boring when another ship appeared on his screen. Commander, we've got something here, he said over the intercom. What is it? Naruto asked. When he spoke, his voice was tight with controlled anger. It had been like that since he came back on board. It's another ship, a kind I've never seen before. It looks like someone tried to fuse a prison transport and a cargo hauler and made it work. There was the barest amount of humor when he spoke that last sentence, he couldn't help it. But if the commander found it funny, he didn't say. Go dark, he ordered. Going dark, Commander, Joker repeated for all to hear. That was the signal to start the internal emissions sync process, making the ship completely vanish from the radar of any other ship. It wasn't a long process, but they couldn't hold for extended periods of time. We've gone dark, he declared once the process was done. Good, Naruto's voice said. Do you have a name with that ship? Hold on, Commander, he said. A quick scan revealed the information. It's the Jewel of Ilium. Not very original, if you asked me. I didn't. Focused on what needs to be done. Aye, Commander. He quickly checked the information he had been given. That's the ship, sir. Cripple it. He was a little confused by those words. What exactly do you mean by that, Commander? I want that ship limping. Do whatever it takes to make that happen. Okay. He hesitated for a moment, and then spoke again. I know that I'm probably going to regret saying this, but while I can have the engines disabled, I can also have the air systems get hit. Do you want me to do that? If you're fine with me ripping your very soul out of your body, then yes, Naruto said with a growl. I'm not risking Hanabi's life with that kind of move. A chill struck his spine and slowly crawled up his back. Sorry, sir, I had to ask. No, you didn't. Get to your work, now. The intercom went dead. It took him a moment to do as he was told. The chill was still there. Okay, you could have been a little nicer to Joker, Saiken told his Jinchuriki. He's just trying to do his job. There was no need to act like that to him. Don't bother trying to talk him now, Saiken, Kurama said, taking him aside and speaking quietly. It's going to take something more than us and chastisement to get him out of that mood. Then what will that be? I'm not sure. But it's not going to be us, that much I am certain, the fox told the slug. Kami, what I would give to have one of the Konoha 12 here right now to talk sense into my idiot of a Jinchuriki. Said Jinchuriki wasn't really paying attention to what the Biju were saying. He was in the airlock, his team standing behind him. He was waiting for the news that the ship they were looking at was crippled. He didn't have to wait that long. Their engines are hit, Commander, Joker announced. They're floating dead in the water. I also had the radio antenna hit. It's destroyed. They won't be able to send any SOS transmissions. Get close to it, and find a hangar door you can hijack, Naruto ordered. Aye, Commander. The team waited as the ship moved right up against the damaged ship. They felt the ship shudder and then stop. Door is hijacked, opening in 3, 2, 1. The Normandy's hatch opened along with the Jewel of Ilium's door. Naruto sprang into action. There were 5 Asari commandos on the other side. They didn't have a chance when he leapt into their midst. Within 5 seconds they were all on the ground, stunned. In 6, they were all dead. Their killer moved on, not caring about them now that they were dead. The rest of his team followed after him. I don't think this will end well for the kidnappers, Liara said quietly. I think you're right, Ashley agreed with her. They could literally feel the waves of anger and rage rolling off Naruto as he moved forward. Later the team would agree that he didn't walk. He stalked. The unit was aware of Hanabi Hyuga's kidnapping, having learned of it via its charge. So when he went after the kidnappers, the unit followed. Unlike the Normandy, it was able to do a much deeper scan on the Jewel. It had the layout and heat emissions of the crew. Its charge had already lined up against one hangar door, and scans showed his team was moving through the ship. However, it noticed a potential weakness. There was a secondary hangar on the other end. If pressed, the kidnappers could escape through there. But if it landed and pushed forward from there, the kidnappers would be trapped. After that, it was just a matter of keeping itself hidden from its charge. As it flew to the Jewel, the unit was made aware of something. Before it starting observing its charge, it would not have done this. It would have stayed out of scanning range of either ship and observed the situation. But now it was actively helping. Why? Why was it doing this? The unit's ship attached itself to the Jewel. It got to work, leaving behind the curiosity for another time. As it turned out, Liara's words were prophetic. Wherever the kidnappers were encountered, they tried to put up a defense, but it was quickly proven to be useless. Naruto was angry, and his anger leaked into his presence, directing itself at those who were perceived to be enemies. But when he wasn't attacking, he walked through at a normal pace. That was probably the most terrifying thing about him. Even when they split up to cover more ground through the ship, he walked. If he wasn't so utterly angry, it would have looked like he was just taking a leisurely stroll. But since he was angry, it was no stroll. It was more akin to a hunter stalking its prey with all the time in the world. Needless to say, once they realized what he was doing, the tribe members on the Jewel began to get very scared. Through their comms, they could hear short gunfire bursts mixed with shouts and screams, first angry then rapidly turning terrified. Then the sounds would abruptly cut off. That made it all the more terrifying. One member of the tribe, an Asari who had joined recently, was crouched behind a makeshift barrier of crates and boxes. Her grip was shaky. If she tried to aim, she'd be shooting all over the place. It felt like all she could do to just hold her gun right. Since her grip was so shaky, she couldn't find it in herself to reach up and turn off the comm. That meant she had to listen to everything. Oh shit, there he is! Shoot him! Shoot him! By the goddess, Sho, the Asari's shouting was cut short. By the Dalatras, did you see what he just did? Open fire! Up! Where is he? Where is that human? I don't know. I can't see. He's killing everyone. Get us out. Get us. The Turian who was begging died with a scream. What is happening? Someone give me answer. There are more of them. What? Where? There. There. That's the wrong human. It doesn't matter. Shoot him. She heard someone crashing into something hard. Fuck, he's a biotic. So is the Krogan with him. Dear goddess, he's here. Where is he? He's coming this way. Arg, just die. A Solarian screamed as he fired his weapon. Eat this, you. The curse didn't have any time to be spoken before the Turian went silent. Goddess, you're a monster. Run. Run away from Ahak. Help. Help. In the name of the spirits, help. He's killing. No. No. Stay away. Stay away. Why won't he die? Keep firing. Keep shooting him. A scream echoed through the calm, along with what sounded like the breaking of an arm. But it wasn't a breaking. Shit, he just tore that arm right off. My arm. Hold her still. Hold her still. Stop the bleeding. She's losing too much. Look out, he's. What came next was a scream of pain, multiple bursts of gunfire, and more screams of pain. Unable to take it anymore, the commando all but tore the calm out of her ear. If it wasn't attached to her armor, she would have thrown it away. Instead, she settled for bashing it to pieces with her gun. Now, she was left alone in the silence. Suddenly, the galaxy seemed to only be comprised of her makeshift barricade. She began to be afraid of the silence, wishing that she hadn't smashed the calm. She had thought that the chaos and all-around panic screaming through the calm was bad, but the silence was much worse. It felt like it was going to engulf her, to swallow her whole. I will not cry. I will not cry, she told herself, trying to muster what remained of her courage. I am not a little girl anymore. I am a commando. I will not cry. That was when she heard the footsteps. It was only a single pair of feet that were walking towards her, and yet, it was the single most terrifying sound she could have possibly heard at that moment. Ka-thump! It was getting closer with every step, but it was not going at a quick pace. It seemed to taking its time walking towards her. Ka-thump! She went still and started to breathe shallowly, hoping to the goddess that whoever those terrible feet belonged to would not find her, and keep moving forward. That hope quickly turned into a prayer. Ka-thump! Please, goddess, don't let them find me. Please, just let them go by and give me time to make my escape. Please, goddess Athame, let me have that. Ka-thump! She kept repeating her prayer over and over again. A part of her mind noticed something that made her even more scared. The way the feet walked, how fast they were going, and the noise they were making made her feel like whoever was coming wasn't just walking. It was stalking. It was on the hunt, and it was more than likely that she was the prey. Please, 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 please. She silently begged Athame. K-thump. Please, 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 please. K-thump. Please, 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 please just let them move on. K-thump. 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 With each footstep getting louder and getting closer, sounding like the footsteps of death coming for her, she was getting closer and closer to panicking. Please, 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 please. I don't want to die. K-thump. 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 Just then, the sound of the feet stopped and silence engulfed her little world again. I know you are hiding behind those crates, the hunter spoke, his voice a deadly whisper to her ears. The question is, will you come out or will I drag you out? She said nothing, still hoping that if she stayed silent, he would go away. She still prayed that he would. Please, 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 just let him go. A hand smashed through the barricade and grabbed hold of her. Merciful goddess, please. She was pulled out from the ruined barricade without even a hint of gentleness. The hunter threw her against the nearby wall. Her back was laced in pain, but she didn't have time to feel it. The hand grabbed her neck in a tight grip and lifted her into the air. Breathing was difficult but not impossible. But that vital concern soon disappeared when she looked down and saw the face of the hunter. Her eyes widened in surprise. She had met him before. She wasn't the only one. I know you, don't I? Her attacker asked, his eyebrows furrowed in concentration. Where have I seen you before? Thesha. She managed to get out. Oh yeah, he said. I remember now. You were the FNG with that one group of commandos. His face hardened. But that doesn't matter now. I've got one question for you. He brought her down lower so they could talk face to face. Where is Hanabi? Who is that? She dared to ask. He tightened his grip, squeezing out more air from her throat. Where is Hanabi? He repeated himself, sounding exactly the same as before. Don't know, she wheezed out, which only got her throat squeezed harder. Do not lie to me. Not lying, telling truth, swear to goddess. And by the goddess, she sounded like a Solarian. But she could hardly breathe. The human looked at her like she was already dead. And why should I believe you? Just joined, thought it was another Citadel task force, was told this was a simple transport mission. So you do know where Hanabi is? He squeezed harder. Any breath she had left came out in a whisper, but she still forced herself to answer. No. Swear to goddess, telling truth. Was told this was a transport mission. It all came out in a huge wheeze. Then who was this ship transporting? Ma Matriarch Moria Axia. She screamed with what air she had left. That proved to a good answer. The grip on her throat loosened enough for her to breathe in more air. It never tasted so good before. But even though the grip had loosened, it was still tight enough to squeeze her life out. Where was she coming from? The human asked. His voice had not changed an octave since he started. It was truly frightening. Your Earth, she told him. You lie. She hates humans, I remember that well. She shook her head weakly. Not lying, we picked her from Earth along with her guards and special cargo. That got his interest. What special cargo? Don't know what's inside, she told him, which got her throat being squeezed tighter again. Do know where it is? The tightening stopped, and he stared at her intently. Where? He asked her. He only said it once, but that was all he needed. In her quarters, near the back of ship, second deck, farthest away from engine room. She told him rapidly. For what felt like an eternity to her, he said nothing. All he did was look at her. She did not know what he was looking for on her face. She could only pray to Athame that he would not kill her. Her prayers seemed to be answered when the grip on her throat was released, and she fell to the floor in a heap. As she gasped for the rest of her breath, she heard the human talking over her. Everyone, I have a possible location. I want the back of the ship and the second deck cleared and secured when I get there. Look for a room that's a private quarter. When he was done talking, he looked down at her. She felt his gaze and she could not help but look upward at him. Well, what are you going to do to me? She asked, feeling very afraid. Are you going to kill me? He didn't say anything at first, he just stared at her. Her fears began to come back to her. She began to think that she was a dead Asari. Does this ship have any escape pods? He asked her. She nodded her head shakily but also rapidly. Yes. I'm going to keep walking. When I return this way and you're still here, you are a dead woman. Am I understood? She nodded her head even more rapidly. Yes. Good. He turned around and began walking down the corridor away from. She did not move from her spot in fear that if she did, he would turn right back around and decapitate her or something like that. All she could hear was his footsteps walking away. K-thump. 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 Ka-thump. 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 The sound of his footsteps finally faded away, leaving nothing but silence. She didn't do anything at first. Maybe he stopped and was waiting for her move. That way, he could kill her easily. That idea kept her paralyzed in place. But when she finally mustered up enough courage to move into a kneeling position, he did not reappear. Oh, thank you, goddess, she thought with relief. She got back up on her feet and bolted down the opposite way. She didn't care about trying to defend the ship to her last breath. She just wanted to get off. Even though he knew where the location of Hanabi was, Naruto did not immediately run towards it. He gave orders to have it secured and he knew that his team would do as he ordered. So he kept on walking, filling the corridors of the ship with the sounds of his feet striking metal. He had done that on purpose because he had learned during the war that a good loud footstep would always terrify the enemy. But the Biju inside of him had a different opinion on the matter. Okay, you've made your point, Gaki-san said. You can stop with the footsteps of doom. Why should I? He asked as he found a staircase and began to descend to the second deck. The staircase made his footsteps echo even more, giving it an added effect. You've probably killed everyone on the ship except for that matriarch woman. What's the point of continuing it? The fact that you used the word probably, he replied. I used that word because those you missed most likely went for the escape pods when they had the chance or were killed by the others. Everything's alright then. Naruto, there's a difference between killing someone and stalking them so they can possibly wet their pants. Son, come here, Kurama said, pulling the Yambi aside. Don't bother trying to get him to stop right now. It's pointless. We have to do something, Son replied. Look, I told Saiken this and now I'm telling you. It's going to take something more than us and chastisement to get him out of that mood. And what is that something going to be? He demanded. I don't know, but I've got a feeling it's going to be nothing less than either divine or Konoha 12 intervention. The monkey looked at the fox. Kurama, the rest of the Konoha 12 have long been dead, and personally, after everything we've seen, I don't think there's such a thing as the divine. I know, and that's what scares me, the fox admitted. I never thought I would see the day when I would hear those words come out of your mouth. Don't read into it, he warned the Yonbi. By the time they finished their conversation, Naruto had reached the second deck. He found Ashley waiting for him in the corridor. Commander, she said when she saw him. Have you found the location? He asked, being all business. Yes, sir. Take me there. Aye, sir, she said, turning around sharply and walking down the corridor. Naruto followed her, and his footsteps echoed through the corridor. Ka-thump! Ka-thump! Sir, we've secured the deck and everything outside of the location, Ashley spoke as they walked. So could you not do that now? There's no one else for you to scare. He looked at the back of her head because she had not turned it to look at him when she spoke. Fine, he said after a moment of silence. His tenants were a little amazed that he agreed so easily. Thank you? Already his footsteps sounded less ominous. She wouldn't have admitted out loud, but those footsteps had put a chill into her when she began hearing them. It didn't take them long to find the rest of the team waiting outside a door with guns aimed at it. Why have you not tried to get in? Naruto asked when he saw them, getting their attention. We could have, sir, Gurus replied. But we thought it was best for you to get here and take care of it. Normally, that would have been the point where he would roll his eyes and make a comment. But instead, he walked up to the door, waited for it to open, and walked through to see the matriarch Moria holding Hanabi in one hand and a gun in the other. Stay back, the Asari told him in a calm voice. She had a black eye and busted lip, but she still looked like she believed herself to be in control. He stepped into the quarters. They were semi-spacious, more utility than comfort. Moria, I know that you don't like humans, he said easily. I just figured you would keep it to yourself like you were told. Even though he sounded relaxed, it didn't match the expression on his face. That should have been a warning. But the matriarch didn't see it. She was arrogant, believing she had control of the situation. I said stay back. Get me a channel to the council. I want a way off this ship. And what in the name of Kami makes you think that you would get this channel when it would be so much easier to just kill you? She scoffed. You have no idea just who I am, do you? You can't touch me. I know exactly who you are, he said, returning the scoff. You are a disgusting, pathetic, weak excuse for a bag of bones and meat who stole a child from her parents. And in case you haven't seen the vids already, I'm a specter. I can touch you all I want, and there's nothing you can say in protest. She placed the gun on Hanabi's head, the barrel pressing into her temple. If you try to take another step and take her, I will blow her brains out. He stared at her in silence for a long moment and smirked. No, I don't think so. You're still arrogant enough to think that you will get out of this alive and with Hanabi. He chuckled lowly. How stupid are you? She didn't like his insults. How dare he look down his nose at her? I will kill her. I promise you that, she threatened, pressing the barrel down harder. He didn't say anything to her, instead looking at Hanabi. You okay, firecracker? He asked, getting a nod. He looked at her captor, noticing the lip and eye. Was that your work? He got another nod which was a little more enthusiastic. Very nicely done, he complimented her. If you want her to die, keep talking, Moria warned, her finger squeezing ever so slightly on the trigger. He gave her a look telling what he thought of her threat and her IQ. Hanabi, I want you to do something for me, he told her. I want you to close your eyes and think hard about your family. Can you do that for me? She looked a little confused, but did as she was told and closed her eyes, thinking with all of her might about her family. Once he knew that she was thinking about her family, Naruto looked at Moria and directed all the anger and all the intention to kill he had at her, like he had been taught by Kakashi and Jiraiya 2,000 years ago. The matriarch suddenly couldn't speak or move. All she could do was look upon the human glaring at her. Somehow, she didn't know how, she began to see 9 heads of different earth creatures looming over the human. They were all angry and they were all snarling at her. Fear began to coil up in her stomach. She was an Asari matriarch, someone who was wise in the ways of the galaxy and strong in the ways of biotics. And yet, she felt like she was but a worm to this god she had angered. There was so much anger directed at her that she could not take it. She passed out. When she came to, she found herself in an odd place she didn't recognize. "Where am I?" she said aloud. "You're in the Normandy airlock," the voice of the godlike human said behind her. When she turned to look at him, she saw that he was in full armor, helmet included. But now that there was no more anger and killing intent directed at her, she had regained her confidence, and thought him to be just a human. "Where is the cargo?" she asked him. That question earned her a hard slap upside her head. "Her name is Hanabi, and she's fine," he told her. "She's out of your reach and still like that. You, on the other hand, are a completely story." Yes, she was. But she also knew how to get out of this situation. After all, she knew how the games were played. "I have information about the tribe that you could most certainly use," she told him, still acting very calm and confident. "Do you really think that I would let you live for this supposed information?" "It is not supposed, and yes, you would. I know you and the rest of the human race. Once you have a good source of information, you'll keep it alive and keep coming back in the hopes of getting more." "Then I should tell you two things that will make you realize your situation," he said. One of the kinds of people I hate the most is the kind who turn traitor just to save their own skin." He felt a shiver go through her skin. That made him glad. 2. I don't care about your little shadow war with the Akatsuki. You can fight and destroy each other, and I wouldn't have given a shit. But you and your little tribe decided to kidnap the daughter of someone I like to consider a friend. That's a line you shouldn't have crossed. "You can't just kill me," she said, nervous fear echoing through her voice. "Wanna bet?" "I'm a matriarch, one familiar with the council. You kill me, they will find my body and they will want to know why." "Not if they can't find you," he told her. "Joker, open the airlock." Her mind and body froze at those words. The airlock in front of her began to open slowly, terrifying her. Only her mind unfroze, and that was because she began to silently beg. But when the airlock was fully opened and the vast emptiness of space was outside, all she got from her captor was a boot on her ass. Next thing she knew, she was out of the ship. Codex entry, Technology Magium. Practically ubiquitous in human technology, magium is a salt-like substance used to make chakra-based semiconductors for chakra tech, and is a common material used to both strengthen a metal and to grant it chakra-conductive properties. This is a relatively recent discovery, but magium is also known to be used as a poison, and it is easy to see why it was once called death salt. It is odorless, tasteless, dissolves instantly in liquid, and kills the victim rather quickly in a manner not at all different from a neurotoxin. Solarians that have ingested the poison through their drinks are known to die within seconds of their lips touching the liquid. Different impurities added to the magium salt affects everything, and one can tell its purity by how white the salt looks. At its purest, the magium salt is completely colorless, conducts chakra extremely well, which makes it ideal for use as a conductor in chakra tech, and is known to be strong enough to kill a Krogan within 5 seconds. On the other hand, adding iron, carbon, tungsten, chromium, and a varying amount of the salt and other trace elements makes a steel that stores the chakra in an electromagnetic field outside the item, ideal for melee weapons and personnel armor. And makes a poison that crystallizes a good number of oxygen-carrying blood cells the very second it enters the bloodstream, which literally shreds the victim's blood vessels and causing them to die a slow and painful death. Due to its modular properties, it is a popular poison used by Systems Alliance spies and assassins even today. The problem is that due to the time and effort involved in making it, as well as its ubiquitous nature in human technology, magium has the potential of living up to its reputation as humanity's answer to Element Zero. At its purest, refined magium salt can cost upwards of 65 million credits per ton. Impure magium, on the other hand, costs less than that, depending on what it is used for. As with all chakra-related technologies, there is no black market on magium, and the recipe to make the crystals that make up the salt is a closely guarded secret. Master. Poisoners, on the other hand, share their method and ingredients only to their most trusted students. Chapter 26, A Mini Vacation. Location: Citadel. "What happened?" Spiratus demanded, staring at the hologram. He, Tevos, and Valen were in their private office. They came here after learning about the kidnapping. The huntress regarded him and his fellow counselors calmly. The attempt was successful, but the Jewel of Ilium was hijacked before the trade-off could be made, she told them. She talked as if she just giving a report. From what we can gather, it was Naruto Uzumaki who attacked the jewel. Tevos knew as a counselor, especially when it came to this kind of situations, it was best to keep a calm presence. However, what they were facing tested her resolve. We're not talking about how your group lost your target, she told the huntress. Oh? Then why are we talking? Spiritus was angry enough to shred something. We're talking because your group decided to kidnap a child, he said, his voice filling the room with his anger. A child. Counselor, I heard you the first time, the huntress said dismissively. This was an opportunity we could not pass up. You kidnapped a child. And not just any child, Valen added. You kidnapped the granddaughter of the Hyuga clan head. She looked at the Solarian with disinterest. We chose to see it as taking the only chakra-wielding Asari into protective custody. She looked over at Tevos for support. You kidnapped her, the Asari counselor said shortly. And in doing so, you could have caused an interspecies mess. The only reason you haven't is because news of your kidnapping hasn't been sent to the media. That also meant that Commander Uzumaki's attack on the jewel wasn't public news either. As far as the galaxy was concerned, the kidnapping did not happen. With all due respect, Counselor, the tribe was created so the Council could have knowledge of chakra. Our mandate is that we secure chakra, whenever possible. She looked down her nose at all of them. So kindly let us do our job. The hologram vanished, leaving them alone in the office. Valen sat down first. She is good but arrogant, he declared. That'll end up costing her. Spiritus paced the office, doing his best to work off his anger without attacking something. It worked somewhat. Has Udina been notified of the rescue? He asked once he was sure his temper had cooled off. Yes, but not by us. Seems Commander Uzumaki reported to him after he rescued the child. Tevos was aware that the human specter had a friendship with Hanabi Hyuga. He rescued her because of that, not because she had chakra. However, there was a concern. What are the chances he'll get involved? She asked her fellow counselors. The question paused the room. From what they knew, Naruto didn't do anything by halves. And if he did get involved, it wouldn't be on their side. Provided something like this doesn't happen again? Slim, Valen said. He frowned. But I wonder how he learned about it in the first place. Spiritus looked across the room at him. Valen, we both know who told him. It was the other side. That was the only answer that made sense. He nodded in acknowledgement. The other side was dangerous. And the chances of them getting the commander involved were high. At this point, I think we should consider keeping the other side from contacting Commander Uzumaki from now on. Tevos liked the idea. She even saw a way to apply it. If we let the tribe think it would keep him out of their business, they would do it for us. Valen agreed with the idea. That only left Spiritus. She looked at the still-pacing Turian. His anger was replaced with concern. Spiritus? He stopped and looked at them both. I'm starting to believe that the tribe has too much power. Sooner or later they'll break away from us. He held up a hand when Tevos opened her mouth. Don't, Tevos, don't. I know why the tribe exists. Humanity couldn't be the only species that wielded chakra. But they kidnapped a child, took her from her home. He thanked the spirits that Hanabi had been rescued. If they had been successful, what would have stopped them from kidnapping human children? Both his fellow counselors understood what he was saying. If they were being honest, the same thought had crossed their minds too. This was just the first time it was spoken aloud. Do you have any thoughts on how diminished their power? Valen asked. No. Truthfully, he was thinking more along the lines of getting rid of the tribe. Do you? I do not. Perhaps it was time they started thinking of ways. If the tribe did get too strong, the chances of them listening to the council would start whittling away. Best to fix that before it became a problem. Location: Naruto. The forest seemed to be full of shades now, and they were all coming after him. He was running but at a civilian's pace, to his disgust. It was a pace any shinobi worth their kunai would have been able to outrun. But try as he might, he couldn't run any faster. No matter where he was running towards, the shades were all around him. He didn't know what they were saying since their words were drowned out by themselves. There were maybe one or two intelligible words, but that didn't matter. All he could tell was that they were coming after him and they were angry. So he kept running. His sight was obscured by the falling ash, making him feel half blind. He tried to swat them out of his way, but that just made them swirl around and make his sight all the worse. He could feel the shades on his heels, following him wherever he ran. No matter how many times he tried to lure them, they were always there. What was worse was that when he made the mistakes of looking at them, all he could see was the faces of those he had lost. They were looking right at him, and they were angry. "Leave me alone!" he shouted as he kept running. But they did not listen. Their silence made him want to run as fast as he could, to get away from them all. But no matter where he ran, they followed him. Maybe Orochimaru was right. Maybe I do belong in this place. He started slowing down the more he thought about it. Maybe that was why those who he had lost were there. They wanted him to stay. Well, he was mostly certainly damned, if not for a multitude of reasons, then certainly for not keeping his promises to those who he had lost. But just as he was about to stop, he saw a faint light at the edge of the forest. Is it a way out? He started running towards it. If it was a way out, he would gladly take it. The shades were still following him. They seemed to get angrier with each step he took. Don't stop, keeping running. He headed straight for the light, watching it get brighter with each step he took. But with each step, the shades were getting closer. He felt something brush against his back. "Oh merciful Kami, was that a hand?" he asked, feeling chills at the touch. He didn't focus on that. The light was just there, right in front of him. All he had to do was take a few more steps. But the shades were right behind, and he was fairly certain that there was more than one hand reaching out to his back. 3 steps left. They were barely touching him. 2 steps left. They were more confident and touched his back more firmly. A single step left. One hand tried to reach out and grasp his shoulder. "No, you don't!" He shrugged free, taking that last step into the light. He burst out of the ash-filled forest and into an open patch of grass. The shades and their grasping hands disappeared at the tree's edge. He looked back. They were gone. Feeling safe, he turned his back on the forest and looked at where he was. There was no ash in the air, and the only thing that looked to be burned were the trees beyond the patch's space. He could see the sky and all its blueness. There was sunlight shining down, and he felt a cool wind breeze across his face. But as he was taking all this in, a voice spoke behind him. "Lariat!" Naruto felt an arm against his head an instant later, and in the next instant, he was face down in the ground, chewing grass. "We!" Spitting out grass, the blonde shook his head to get out of the dizziness inflicted on him. "Damn it, B!" he shouted automatically. "I thought I asked you to stop doing the..." His voice trailed off when he realized what he was saying, and who the voice had belonged to. He looked up at his attacker. "B? That'd be me, the one, the only, the killer B." "Fool, you fool!" the once Jinchuriki of Gyuki declared. He was standing there in all of his 7 swords, wrapped in glory. The only thing that was different about him was that he did not wear his sunglasses, understandable since Naruto was the one wearing them, showing his eyes to the blonde. They were a nice shade of brown. Naruto stood back up on shaky legs, still uncertain about the shinobi standing there. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded. "I never would have thought you would be in the forest." "Fool, we're not in the forest, can't you see? You're in a peaceful spot, where it's just you and me." B turned serious, something that was very rare. "And we need to have a talk, Naruto." That got his attention. The only time B ever spoke without rapping was when he was completely and utterly serious, something that Naruto had only seen once or twice. "Talk about what?" "The way you've been acting recently. You need to get over it." "Just like that?" he asked, feeling insulted that one of his mentors and friends would even suggest such a thing. "Yes, just like that. You've got to stop it. You know damn well that everyone who had died wouldn't want you to wallow in self-pity." He got angry at the dismissal. "B, I've lost a lot of people, remember? I even lost you. Obito left me pinned on the ground unconscious so I could watch as he dragged your all but dead body away." "So?" B asked. "What do you mean so?" "Just what I said," he replied. So? So what's your point? Do you think I would be mad at you for letting that happen?" "Yes." The Kumo shinobi snorted derisively. "Get your head out of your ass, Naruto. I went with you. I knew there was a chance one of us would have been taken, if not both, and I knew that the greater odds would have been on me. But I still went, just like all the others who went with you and died. If they saw you the way you were now, they would not be happy. I know I'm not. Do you even realize who you've been channeling since you lost those two? He didn't understand the point of the question at first. But then he really thought, about how he had been acting since Vermeer, and it hit him like a ton of bricks. Dear Cammy, I've been acting like Sasuke. B nodded. Yeah, you have been doing that. And I don't think that your friend would appreciate it. He is he and you are you, there's no need to try and be someone you're not. Naruto didn't say anything. He just stood in the patch of peaceful grass, taking it all in. So you want me to forget everyone that I had lost and just move on? He finally asked. I didn't say that, you fool. I just told you to stop wallowing and acting like Sasuke. Don't let the dead hold you. We may be gone, but you're not. You still have things to do and you don't need our weight on your shoulders. I don't know if I can do that. You're going to have to try, Naruto, he told the blonde. He looked around the area for a moment. It looks like our time is up. Really? He asked, looking around too. But he didn't see what B had seen. Yeah, it is. He smiled. But how about one more for the road? He asked, rising up his arm. I'm sure it won't be a weight on your load. The blonde shinobi knew what he was talking about, and raised his own arm. Why the hell not? He asked back. I could use something to hit. They charged at each other, their arms locked in place. Lariat! Naruto came awake with a start. His chest and shoulder felt sore. They always did after getting hit with the lariat. He stopped and considered that thought. I thought it was only a dream. But he felt it. Was it more than that? The sound of moving sheets pulled him out of his thought. He got out of his chair and walked over to the bed. Hanabi was sleeping there, all but hugging one of the pillows like a teddy bear. He smiled. She looked peaceful, better than before. He carried her off the jewel, and she held onto him with an iron grip. The only time she let go was when he put her in the bed. He checked the clock. It was almost time for breakfast. He leaned down and shook her shoulder. Hanabi, time for you to wake up. Hanabi felt really comfy. She was in that perfect zone between sleep and awake. It was the zone where one was somewhat aware of the world, but didn't care. She loved being in the zone. If she could, she would not leave it. But now a voice that sounded almost like Daddy's but didn't was telling her to get up. No, she said sleepily. Get up, Hanabi. No, don't wanna. She turned away from the voice so she could enjoy the zone more. Naruto smiled a little at the move. You know you're going to have to get eventually. That didn't sound like something Daddies would say. But she didn't care at that moment. Not gonna get up, going to stay like this forever. That won't happen no matter how much you want it to, Hanabi. He shook her shoulder again. You have to get up now. No. Hanabi, I don't want to use this on you. Please don't give me a reason to use it. Now that just didn't make any sense at all. And since she was in the zone, what didn't make sense could be ignored. Go away, she ordered with all the authority of a sleepy small child. He stared at her, almost uncomprehending. I beg your pardon? He wanted to be sure he heard that right. Go away, in zone, don't want to come out of zone. He chuckled. All right, Hanabi, you leave me no choice. Just remember, I gave you fair warning. Huh? She thought with content sleepiness. What does that? She soon got her answer when the voice of the goddess and Cammy combined roared at her. Hanabi Hyuga, you will get your little blue butt out of that bed and wake up, or I will hold you upside down by your leg and shake you until you are out of the zone and I have your complete attention. Am I clear? She snapped awake and sat up immediately. Yes, mother, she said. But she realized that her mother wasn't there, just a blonde with a smile on his face standing over her. Lord Naruto? She asked cautiously. Gah, he said with a grimace. Hanabi, what have I said about calling me a lord? The little Asari looked at him, wondering if she was imaging him. Is that really you? The smile returned, gentle. Last time I checked. I didn't dream that whole thing up? No, of course not, he told her. But he could understand why she would think that. After he had knocked Moria out, Hanabi had wriggled out of her unconscious grip and ran towards him, hitting him in the legs with all of her might. She had wept tears of joy at being rescued before falling asleep from exhaustion. She started tearing up, sniffling happily. Thank you, goddess? Hey, you should be thanking me. She managed to give him a look through the threading tears. I know that, but I had been praying that someone would save me. The smile fell away at those words. You were scared, weren't you? She nodded. I went to bed one night, and when I woke up, I was in a crate. I pounded the sides and the top, screaming for anyone to hear. When it opened, I was lifted out by that. She trailed off, closing her mouth. She looked at him uncertainly. Are you talking about the older Asari? She nodded. Are you afraid to say her name? No, it's not that, she said quickly. I didn't know who she was, so I. She looked away. I called her a name, to her face often. Now he was interested. What was the name? I can't say it. I heard it in the academy, and it was a bad name. The teacher had been furious when the student said it. She only thought Mom could yell like that. You can tell me. She shook her head. No, I can't do that. It's a bad name, and when I told my parents about it, they told me to never say it in front of people until I was older. It was that bad of a word. Her innocence was nice, like a breath of fresh air. Hanabi, he told her, I have fought beside some of the most foul-mouthed shinobi that have ever lived, a Quarian who takes it personally when you question a machine in her care, and a Krogan. Odds are I've heard the word before. You can tell me. She knew she could trust him, but she felt so nervous. I called her a bitch. She didn't mean to stutter. Her voice just did it. Naruto found it to be cute. He smiled reassuringly. See? I've heard it before. I've said it myself many times. He held his finger up. But that doesn't mean you can use it yourself. I know, she replied. Well, she lifted me out of the crate with her biotics, and then threw me against a wall. She held me against it, told me that I was nothing but an item of interest to her superiors and a freak to her. She looked around quickly with fear in her eyes. She's not here, is she? He shook his head. No, she's not here, Hanabi. You're safe. He held out his hand to her. Come on, how about we get some food in your tummy? Her stomach answered for her, growling loudly. She looked a little embarrassed. Okay, sure, she told him, unable to look him in the eyes. He chuckled. Hanabi, an empty stomach is nothing to be ashamed of. Trust me on that. She was still unsure about that. If you say so. I do. Now come on. She took his hand, using it to get out of the bed. She noticed she had slept in her clothes. Together, they walked out of his room and over to the mess table. Once they sat down, Hanabi opened up. Do my parents know where I am? That was the first question on her mind. Naruto nodded. I contacted them myself. He wasn't sure who was more relieved, Niji or his wife. They're meeting us on Elysium. Elysium? She repeated, frowning in concentration. Is that in the Scythian Verge? She felt like that was the right answer. So I've been told. Why are we going there? Why can't we go back to the Earth? He looked across the table at her. We're a ways away from Earth, and the Scythian Verge is a lot closer. We're only a day away from the planet now, so it's a little pointless to change directions and head for Earth. He took a moment to eat his breakfast. Hanabi did the same, settling her stomach. I got your present, by the way. She brightened up at those words. Really? Really, he replied with a nod. Did you like it? I did, once I turned down the volume. She frowned, puzzled. What did the volume have to do with you listening to it? He smiled ruefully. Oh, the last captain decided to be funny and raised the volume to full before I came in. I was literally blasted out of my chair by the music when I hit the play button. You mean, he pranked you? She couldn't believe that Naruto Uzumaki had been pranked. It was like the sun rising in the west and setting in the east, it doesn't happen. And yet she had just heard him practically say it. He smiled at her. Yes, I did. But I got him back. He was still the lord of the pranks. She breathed a sigh of relief. All was well with the galaxy. What did you think of the album? It was good. There was one person got my attention. Someone got his attention? That was interesting to her. Who was it? I don't know. They didn't exactly give out her name anywhere on the album. All I know is that she's human, a redhead, and one of the singers. And he got that from one of their music videos. You forgot to mention that she's using my title, Kurama said with a huff. It was mildly insulting that a human would do something like that. And what gives her the right to use it in the first place? Thankfully for him, Hanabi was ready to talk all about her. Oh, you mean Kyubi? She's my favorite one of them. She was practically bouncing in her seat as she talked. So I can see, Naruto remarked drily. Why do you like her? Because she's amazing. She's the leader of Biju, she has a great voice, and she's kind and fun at the same time. She's just totally awesome. The little Asari was practically hopping in place. She was that excited about the singer. While you may think that, it doesn't help me figure out why she looks so familiar. It was right there on the tip of his tongue. He just could not figure it out. Oh, maybe it's because she's a kunoichi too? She suggested. No, that wasn't it. I figured that out when I first looked at her. She had moved with the grace and strength of someone trained as a kunoichi. The fact that she was a singer and not an actual kunoichi was a brief thought, and not really important as whom she was. Ooh, I know! She exclaimed, snapping her fingers. It's because she's an Uzumaki, isn't it? He froze, letting those words repeat in his head. She's a what? He finally asked. Had he heard that right? She nodded. Yeah, in one of her more recent interviews, she admitted to belonging to the Uzumaki clan, but refused to reveal her actual name. Oh, so that's why she's used my title, Kurama said, suddenly seeing the reason for it. Naruto was still taking it in. She's an Uzumaki, a kunoichi, and a singer. Yep, agreed Hanabi cheerfully. Rumor has it that in order to get Yambi, that's the Krogan, to join, she had to punch him. Hard. I'd believe it. She was an Uzumaki, after all. Hanabi was excited to talk about her favorite band. But before she started, she looked more closely at the blonde. She wasn't sure, but it seemed like there was something slightly off about him. Is something wrong? She asked. He paused with his spoon halfway up. He looked at her with a sharp look in his eyes. Nothing's wrong. Are you sure? Because I don't think so. And everyone comes to you for an opinion? It seems like it at times. Ever since I started at the academy, kids always want to ask me something. It had been a little weird for at the beginning, but she got used to it, and helped as best she could. She has you there, Gyuki said with a snort. His Jinchuriki ignored him. But he didn't ignore the little Asari. She was curious but also concerned. He thought back to his dream of B. It's nothing, Hanabi, just some adult stuff, he told her. She scowled. Mommy and Daddy say the same thing when they're talking about something they don't want me to hear. She didn't think he would use it on her too. He finished eating and put the spoon down. Have you ever lost a friend? He asked, looking straight at her. No, she answered. She had gotten plenty of new friends since joining the academy. He smiled, wishing she would be able to keep her innocence as long as she can. I lost 2 people I considered to be my comrades and my friends recently. And that made me remember everyone I've lost. Her concern look deepened, taking on some confusion. It's a long list, Hanabi. I lost a lot of people in my life. She didn't really know what to say at this point, so she went with the only thing she could think of. How did they die? His hand started curling into a fist. He stopped when he realized what he was doing, uncurling it. For ad measure, he put the hand in his lap. Hanabi wasn't the reason for his anger. I don't know. That just makes it worse for me. I don't know how they died and I couldn't recover their bodies to take home to their families. I've lost too many people like that. It just makes me feel completely pathetic. But you aren't pathetic, she protested instantly. You're Naruto Uzumaki, the shinobi we all want to be. And what of the people who died in the process of making me the shinobi that you all want to be? He asked her. What about them? What is known about them? He snapped his mouth shut, realizing what he had said. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak like that to you, Hanabi. I've been in a bad mood lately. That would be putting it mildly, Matatabi commented. Hanabi looked at one of her heroes. She never thought she would see him like this. I'm sorry for making you feel bad, she told him. I really should have paid attention to what was coming out of my mouth. He waved it off. Not blaming you for that, Hanabi. You're a kid. You're allowed to get away with a few things in life. Not knowing what's coming out of your mouth is one of them. She shook her head. No, I really should have watched it this time. She should have realized that you would care about those who you lost. Things fell into an awkward silence for a moment. Do you want a hug? She asked him. He was surprised by that offer. What? His surprise showed on his face. Do you want a hug? She repeated. Why do you want to give me a hug? Why are you even asking her that question? Isabu asked. She had an answer for him. Whenever I'm down or in a bad mood, Mommy and Daddy give me a hug and I feel a lot better after it. So I thought that you would feel better if you got a hug. Bless this child, thought all the Biju. Their Jinchuriki thought the same. Yeah, I would like a hug, he told her with a small smile. Okay, she said, climbing down from her chair and walking over to him. When he felt her press her weight against him, her arms wrapping around him, he went still for a moment. Unfortunately for him, the Biju felt him go still. Naruto, you will hug this child, Kurama told him with a growl. If you don't, I will make you regret it. He didn't say anything in reply, not even to defend himself. They were right. He hugged her, and it felt nice. This wasn't a greeting hug. This was a hug one used when comforting was needed. Thank you, Hanabi, he told the little Asari. You're welcome, she said back. After they were done, she stepped back. But please don't be sad all the time. You still have friends around, including me. Her smile was infectious. It made him smile back. On the way to Elysium, Hanabi never strayed too far from Naruto's side. He didn't complain. In fact, he looked happier for it. He treated her like his niece, answering any questions she had. The crew noticed his better mood but chose not to say anything. His general coldness was still a fresh memory, and they didn't want to bring it back. Once the Normandy landed, they were informed the Earth party had already landed and were waiting for them. So Naruto and his team, along with Hanabi, piled into the airlock. Hanabi tried to do her very best to hide her excitement, and not doing a good job at it, to see her family again. So it was no surprise to anyone that when the airlock opened and she saw her parents, and even Auntie Urzia, standing there, she ran out of the Normandy right at them. Niji caught her in a tight hug. Leisha joined, openly crying. Hanabi! She said happily. Hanabi burrowed into her father's shirt. She was half afraid they would disappear right there. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, she said over and over and over again. Her father hugged her like he was never letting go. It's not your fault, Hanabi, he told her. It's not your fault. Ever since she was taken, not once had he or her mother blamed her. He looked over at Naruto coming out of the ship. Thank you, Naruto. It wasn't a problem, Niji, the specter replied. Then he looked at Urzia. She was battered and bruised. What the hell happened to you? He asked her. My sister was the first one to find out what had happened to Hanabi, Leisha told him. She met the captors by accident at the docks. Even though that had nearly been a week ago, Urzia was still enraged by it all. That damn woman Moria wanted to know if I was interested in joining while she had my niece in a box, she said with a snarl. The arrogance of that matriarch. I was glad to have thrown her against a wall and tried to rescue Hanabi. But the others overpowered me and that bitch knocked me out. Urzia, language! Her sister said sharply. Both Hanabi and Naruto shared a secret look at those words. Don't worry about her, Urzia, the blonde told her. I took care of her. That got the whole family's, minus Hanabi, attention. Really? Asked Urzia. What did you do? She had a lot of time to think of creative ways to kill Matriarch Moria. Had he unintentionally done one of them? Let me put it to you this way. He paused and they unconsciously leaned in to hear more. You don't want to know. If it had been any other time, and they weren't holding a child, the family might have face-faulted. But since that wasn't the case, all they did was look at him with exasperation in their eyes. Seriously? Asked Niji. Seriously, he repeated. You don't want to know. Commander Naruto, Hackett, who had been standing close by so the family could have their moment, said as he stepped forward. Hey, Hackett, he greeted the Admiral, casually waving at him. An officer in love with regulations and protocols would have been struggling not to reprimand the blonde. But Hackett knew that was his way and took the way it was intended. I believe you said you had something of importance to the Alliance. That was why he was here, after all. Yeah, I do. His hand went for his coat's pocket. You didn't exactly say what it was. For a good reason. He looked over at the family with an apologetic smile. Sorry guys, but a little privacy? Why? Niji asked, raising a questioning eyebrow. It's just something I want to keep secret from most people, that's all. I found it with Scum and I don't want Scum finding it again before it's ready. He looked at the man's team. What about them? Naruto looked back at them as well. Good point, he conceded. Guys, make yourselves scarce. Leisha thought that was a little blunt, and her asserting nature called for a soothing edge. There's a restaurant nearby, she offered. Have you eaten recently? Eaten? Yes. Recently? Yes, Ashley said to her. Food? That would be debatable. Then it's settled, she declared with a smile. Come along then. She and her family led the team out of the spaceport. Naruto waited until Rex and Ashley passed. You two keep your mouths shut about it, he whispered to them. Aye, Commander, Ashley said without missing a beat. Cammy, she is good at keeping a straight face, Sun remarked. What did you expect? Kurama asked him. She's an Uchiha. Coming from you, is that an insult or a compliment? Koko asked. The fox didn't answer back. Hackett waited until they were gone properly. Then he looked at Naruto. All right, what is it that you want to give to the Alliance? This, he answered, pulling out the scroll. He held it out, pulling the sleeve open just enough to reveal the contents. The Admiral looked at the paper and then at him. I hope this is not a joke, he said, his voice showing no emotion but control. Would I joke about something like this? You are infamous for your pranks. That may be, but this was something different. Something important. Trust me, this isn't a prank. The 7 swords of Kirigakure really are in here. He closed the scroll. Hackett was glad for that. Those treasures and weapons had been missing since Shangshi. Where did you find it? In the basement of a piece of Scumturian called Actus. He scowled as he talked. The asshole had them mounted on his wall for anyone to see. Where is Actus now? He smirked and said, currently in Samahata. Hackett frowned. You hid him in there? Why? That wouldn't have been the first conclusion Naruto would have come to. He was tempted to make a joke, but they were being serious. I didn't hide him, Hackett. Samahata ate him. He made it sound like he was talking about a dog or the weather, something ordinary in life. I hope that Actus didn't have any family members that could hear about this, the Admiral said after a moment of silence. Wouldn't know, Naruto replied with a shrug. Quite frankly, he didn't give a shit. Then why would you do such a thing? You make it sound like I held him down while Samahata ate him. Didn't you? No, of course not. He didn't have to. I simply directed Samahata's attention to the scum by telling it what he had told me. He found the 7 swordsmen on Shanshi during the First Contact War. There was only one still living, until he killed her and promptly stole the swords. Samahata took care of the rest. Hackett gave himself a moment to process all this information. He never thought he would hear that sword committed homicide, even cannibalism. Did it even count as cannibalism if it was a sword, even though he had read about Samahata before? And you planned to give them back to the Alliance? He wanted to be sure about that. Naruto nodded. Yeah, that's the idea. Why not use them yourself? He would have thought the legend would have found some way to utilize them. He gave the Admiral a very puzzled look. Why was he even asking that question? I don't know how to use them, and they don't belong to me. These were the 7 swords of the mist. He was a Konoha shinobi. If he had tried something like this before he was sealed, Kiri would have declared war. Hell, relations between them and Kuma were thin because of bewielding Samahata, in spite of the sword's preference. I see. Then on behalf of the Systems Alliance, I will take them into custody. He held his hand out. Naruto didn't give him the scroll, not just yet. I will surrender them, on one condition. What would that be? That they aren't just put in a museum. I want them to be used again. They deserve that much. That he could make happen. It might take some time, maybe even years. But it would give the Alliance another tactic. Very well, I will make sure that they are put into active service again, provided that they are the authentic thing. They are, trust me on this. He took the scroll from the blonde and placed it in a pocket of his own. It will be a morale booster to the Alliance and the elemental countries when they have 7 of their lost treasures back, he thought. There had been multiple search parties that gone over Shangxi for the 7 swords as well as off-world, but they had had no success in finding them. It had always been a bit of a low blow for them. But now, one of their heroes was returning the swords back to them. If this had been Naruto's day and age, he did not doubt that there would be a song or a story about it later on. Hell, odds are that would happen nowadays. Speaking of the blonde, he looked more closely at the man. He looked a little tired. Are you all right, Commander? It's been a few rough days, Naruto admitted. Since Vermeer? He asked further. The blonde was silent for a moment. Yeah, since Vermeer, he answered, nodding. Have you taken a break of any sorts? He gave the Admiral a look that just spoke volumes. Hackett, I'm on the hunt for a rogue specter who's quite possibly on the verge of wiping out civilization as we know it. He omitted the part about the Reapers because he had the feeling that Hackett would have a hard time believing it. The Council certainly didn't when he told them. There's really not time to take a vacation. The Admiral just raised an eyebrow. So you're telling me that you are willing to pass up the chance to take a break on Elysium, one of the beautiful planets within Alliance space, just to go after Saren? Yeah, that's the idea. Idea denied, Commander. He hadn't been expecting that response. What? I said your idea is denied, Commander. So, you want me to stop chasing Saren? That was very counterproductive. It was the entire reason why he had been chosen to be a Spectre, after extracting that apology from the Council, of course. Hackett shook his head. I never said that. Then what exactly are you saying? I'm getting kinda confused here. It doesn't take that much to make you confused, Shikaku remarked with a snicker. Shut up, he told the Tanuki. The Gaki's right, Shikaku, Kurama said. It didn't much to confuse him when he was younger. Nowadays, it takes a little more but not a lot. You shut up too, furball. I was giving you a compliment, Naruto. I want you to take at the very least a day of shore leave, Hackett told Naruto. You and your crew need that much. No, not really, the blonde said back. We do have a mission to do. We don't have time to relax. There is always time to relax, even during an important mission such as yours. It won't kill you to take a day off, Naruto. Well, actually, he began to say, thinking of several days during the war that could certainly qualify. Hackett cut him off before his point was dismissed. Do I have to make it an order, Commander? Didn't you already do that? He was fairly certain he had. Take a day off, Naruto, he ordered. He walked past the blonde, heading for the Normandy. I will tell your ship's crew. Why don't you tell your team? I will inform them to back at the ship before 0800 hours. He entered the ship without waiting for an answer. Naruto could only open and close his mouth like a gaping fish as the Admiral disappeared. Did that really just happen? He asked himself. Yes, it did, Kurama said. You have been forced to take a vacation. It's happened before, Gyuki commented, remembering all the times that the blonde had been dragged out of his apartment by his friends. Yes, but those times weren't usually successful. Standing right here, the blonde told the two of them. Then don't stand there, the fox told him. Go find your team and tell them that they have a day off. He would have said something, but it wouldn't have done anything. The order had already been given. He had no other choice but to follow it. So he turned away and headed for the exit. He kept his eyes opened as he walked through the spaceport. There were a lot more humans than there were aliens, but since Elysium was a human colony, that wasn't a shocker. What mattered was no one had problems with each other. Everyone went about their lives. That was good. It meant they had peace. As he walked out of the spaceport and took in the sight, he saw Elysium was also a beautiful place. Every window he passed showed views of a landscape that an artist would have called breathtaking. But he wasn't really paying attention to what was outside the window, only absently noticing that it was beautiful out there. You know, it would not kill you to stop and smell the roses once in a while, Saiken told the blonde, noticing the vague looks. Actually, there was this one time in his travels with Jiraiya when they stopped in the land of rivers. Kurama began. Number 1. We agreed that never happened, Fox, Naruto cut into the conversation. That had been embarrassing for everyone involved. Number 2. I can't really stop to smell the bushes now, can I? I have to find my team. That won't be an excuse forever, Naruto, Matatabi told him. Just relax for once. And by the way, your team's over there, Komiai said in an offhand manner. What? Sure enough, his team was sitting at an open area of a restaurant across the street. They were sitting with Niji and his family and looked like they were enjoying themselves. It painted a nice picture, a family who were still going despite losing 2 members. Don't just stand there, you moron, Kurama told him. Get your ass moving. I'm going, he replied, walking over to the restaurant. The way to get through the restaurant proper was guarded by a man in a suit, who looked very prim and proper. Not wanting to go through a song and dance routine with the guy, he just hopped the fence. Thinking like a proper shinobi, Sun praised him. I am a proper shinobi, he replied. The fox sniggered at that. Not in the slightest. He ignored him and went over to the table. Hanabi was the first one to see him. Hey, Naruto! She called out, waving her hand. Hey, firecracker! He greeted her, stopping at the big table they were all sitting at. He saw plenty of drinks, but something was missing. What? No food? We just ordered, Gurus told him. Don't worry, I've heard good things about this place, Niji said. It shouldn't be too long before we get our food. If you've heard good things about this place, that would explain the security at the front, Naruto remarked, glancing back at the man. He must have seen him hop the fence, but he hadn't done anything. That's not security, Leisha said, looking a little confused. That's a waiter. Not only were the Biju inside his head laughing, but his team was as well. Anyway, Hackett has made the Normandy and its crew take a day off, he told them, covering his embarrassment. Be back at the ship before 0800 hours. We really have a day off? Ashley asked him. Yeah, we do. He looked at them for a moment, and then at Niji's family. Sorry about this, Niji. But could you give us a couple of minutes? He asked. There's something I need to talk to my team about. There's no trouble, Naruto, Niji replied, standing up from his chair. His family did the same and they walked away. Naruto sat down in a free chair. Everyone's eyes were on him. So what do you need to tell us? Rex asked. He took a deep breath. They had the right to hear these words. I'm sorry for how I've been acting since Vermeer, he told them. I know that I was probably impossible to deal with. Impossible is not the word I would use, mate, Maya said. Short-tempered would be more appropriate. I would have gone with moody, Gurus added. Rude, Liara offered. Foul-mouthed, Tali remarked. Childish, Ashley stated. A Krogan whelp who's feeling a little more than prissy, Rex declared. Ooh, this sounds like fun, Shikaka said. Can we join in? No, Naruto told him. Oh, come on, please? I said no. Spolsport, the Tanuki muttered. He ignored him. Okay, I get the point, he told his team. I know I was all of those things in the past couple of days. Try weeks, Rex commented. Oh, come on, you can barely say that, he protested. It still happened. The Krogan had a point there, a good one. So he moved on. Look, I'm trying to say I'm sorry. I don't like losing people. I've lost enough as it is already. Yes, I remember our little conversation quite poignantly, the Battlemaster said, remembering the comparison of people they've lost. Before the blonde could say anything, Ashley came to his rescue. Lay off, Rex, she told the Krogan. She looked back at Naruto. There's no need to apologize, sir. We understand. Do you? He asked, looking her straight in the eye. Of course we do, Gurus said. We lose people, Commander. We may not like it, but it's a fact of life. I hate that fact. Any sane person would. Stop beating yourself up over it, mate, Maya told him. You said you were sorry and we forgive you. All's well within the team and the galaxy. He couldn't help but smile at that. I guess you're right, Maya? What do you mean, guess? She asked with a smirk. He chuckled. Funny, Maya, funny. He stood up from the chair. I'll leave you guys to your lunch now. Ashley looked at him confusedly. She thought he would stick around, eat with them. They had done that plenty of times on the ship. Where are you going, sir? She asked him. He shrugged. I don't know. I'd figure I'd just walk around. He didn't know this place, so it was a good plan. It's a basic plan, Kurama remarked. Those are the good ones, he replied. Well, just be back at the ship before 0800 hours tomorrow, Maya told him with a smile on her face. He just looked at her with a raised eyebrow. I'm sorry, when did you become the commander, Maya? When you weren't looking, obviously. Her smirk was practically daring him to call her out. It was tempting, but he was the lord of the pranks. He wouldn't fall for such an obvious trap. Obviously, he repeated. Well, kindly keep any fantasies of being called Commander Maya to the bedroom, okay? Liara blushed at those words. Wow, really? You guys already do that? Who's the commander? The Asari blushed even harder. The blonde just stared at her for the long moment. If Jiraiya was still alive, he would be dead set on corrupting you, he finally told her. Is that a compliment? She asked. It sounded like a compliment, but considering who they were talking about, she wasn't sure. He just smiled and walked away, hopping back over the fence. Go back there and give her an answer, Gyuki ordered. Nope. I'm going to let her figure that out, he said. Besides, he had a planet and a town to explore. He wandered around, his hood up and his head down. Right now, he didn't want to be seen. It worked. No one paid attention to him, thinking that he was just another random stranger. Some probably thought he was a weirdo, but they didn't bother him. Elysium was definitely beautiful. Whoever designed the town knew how to harmonize with nature. It seemed perfectly normal to have a building set around to a tree. He saw large and amazing gardens that he had ever seen before. He knew just from a single glance that Ino would be amazed and jealous. Even the Biju were impressed by what they saw. I wonder if the original architects were from Konoha, Gyuki wondered aloud. It certainly looked like it. I don't know about the originals, but the rebuilders were most certainly from Konoha, Kurama stated. What do you mean rebuilders? Isabu asked. He's talking about the people who rebuilt Elysium after the Blitz, Naruto told the Sanbai. Even though the Batarians had been beaten back, the colony still took a bad hit. So some expert architects were hired to rebuild the colony and make it better. Oh right, he said, mostly to himself. Look out, guy coming towards ya, Saiken told their Jinchuriki. I see him, he said, neatly sidestepping a guy on a bike. You know, there are a lot of those around. He had seen very few, if any, cars as he walked through town. Most people seemed to prefer bikes or their feet. Thinking of getting one? Matatabi asked him. He scoffed. Where would I keep it? He also didn't have the time to use it, with his mission to hunt Saren and all that. Just wondering. He passed by a beautiful park. Off in the distance he saw kids running around, kicking a ball. He stopped and watched for a little, leaning against a tree. He wasn't quite sure what the game was, but that wasn't an issue. What he did know was the kids were enjoying themselves. The way they screamed and shouted as they ran with the ball was joyful, unlike anything he had heard during the war. For a moment, he found himself wishing that he could go back to that age. When he was 10, 11, hell even 12, life was a lot simpler. All he had to worry about was becoming a shinobi, then Hokage, winning Sakura's love, proving himself better than Sasuke, and thinking of his next prank. The rest of the world and all its problems didn't seem to matter that much. Good Kami, they were all so innocent back then, after that mission to the Land of Waves. The moment passed, and he left the game behind. He looked around for a place to sit down and cool his heels for a bit. He found a bench and sat down, pulling his hood down. He watched everything all around, like his training taught him. Unconsciously, he began to gather nature energy. It took him a minute or so before he realized what he was doing and promptly stopped. He looked down at his feet and saw a squirrel staring up at him. Yes, is there something you need? He asked it. You're talking to a squirrel and people think I'm the insane one, Shikaku commented. You are insane, not to mention stupid, Kurama told him. What was that? Ladies, relax, you're both pretty, their Jinchuriki said to the both of them. When his attention wandered for a moment, the squirrel took advantage of it. It scampered up his leg, ran up the rest of his body, and stopped in his head, getting comfortable there. Interesting, a man's voice said. He turned his head, being careful not to dislodge the squirrel. A man in civilian clothes, but who carried himself like a shinobi, was sitting beside him. His hair and goatee were the color of iron, but he wasn't frail. In all the time I've lived here, that squirrel has only warmed up to me, and that is usually after I've bribed him with some nuts. What's your secret? Naruto shrugged. I just get on well with most animals. It certainly helped that he was channeling nature chakra, but that wasn't the point. No, that's not it. You have some sort of secret. Sorry, pal, I'm a shinobi. If I told you my secrets, I would be forced to kill you. He rolled his eyes. Please don't try that on me, he told the blonde. I could tell you were a shinobi the moment I saw you. So did I. Now that they got the necessary threat and dismissal out of the way, they could get to the real stuff. So, you got a name? John Grissom, he introduced himself. Nice to meet you, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. The man went still for a moment, and then relaxed. So I've heard. You will have to forgive me if I have a hard time believing that it's really you. He chuckled. I get that a lot, mostly from other races. He looked at the other man. But doesn't the Alliance consider you to be a hero too? He had read about the man. He was pretty famous in his own right. Unfortunately, he said shortly, I never wanted to be one. Neither did I. I find that hard to believe. I read the history books. Naruto snorted. Reading isn't the same as living, you should know that. How many kids have read about what you've done and wanted to do the same? He frowned. More than I would like. I'm not a hero. That's not your call. That was something he knew all too well. Despite what people might think, one doesn't just become a hero. It's only when people start believing in a person, thinking that they could rely on him for safety, trust him to do the right thing, that's when a hero was made. Naruto had read about Grissom. The man was definitely a hero, probably a better one than him. Other squirrels started appearing, watching the humans curiously. The squirrel atop Naruto's ear leapt and landed on the ground. It scampered away to the other squirrels. Grissom handed him some nuts, and they began to feed the squirrels. They said nothing, preferring to just watch the squirrels race for and fight over the nuts. It was a quiet moment, almost serene. But that didn't mean Naruto was done with their conversation. Did you see me as a hero when you were a kid? He asked Grissom. One of them, he answered honestly. I grew out of it as I got older and reality set in for me. I'm flattered. Truly, he was. So you looked to what you thought was a hero and ended up becoming one yourself. That sounded about right. He still scowled. I wish I hadn't. Naruto glanced at him. He certainly was being stubborn about this. Oh, come on. You've got an academy named after you. I don't have that. You would be wrong in so many ways, the gray-haired shinobi said quietly, thinking of all the places that had some part of the blonde's name attached to it. There was an academy back in the elemental countries he just knew would get the blonde's attention. But Naruto only heard some mumbled words. What was that? Nothing, he answered shortly. Let me ask you something. When people called you a hero, why haven't you said anything against it if you don't believe yourself to be a hero? There are two answers to that question. Which one would you like? Both. Good thing he knew both answers. The easy answer is because I've been too busy chasing after Saren to give them any thought, he said with a grin, like some kind of joke. He glanced back to the field where the children were playing. His grin became more sincere. The actual answer to that are the kids. The kids? Repeated Grissom questioningly. He followed his look to the field. Even though they were watching the same game, the old shinobi didn't see the innocence or joy the kids were having. To him, he saw just another part of his day happening. Yeah, the kids, he replied. They're the ones who have the heroes to look up to. Who am I to deny them that? You must have heard a kid say that they wanted to be like you when they grew up. He looked away from the game. None to my face. Of course, there was also the fact that he kept to himself, and did his best to maintain his privacy. Naruto knew that, and he wasn't going to let that stop him. That's because you hid yourself away from everyone. He held up a hand acknowledging. I'm not saying that you should come right out and declare that you would be willing to welcome the media. But you should consider the kids. If one sends you a letter, send a reply. The little gestures mattered, that was all he was saying. Grissom was silent, watching the squirrels. Then he chuckled. You are exactly like my ancestor wrote. Naruto looked at him. That came out of nowhere. Did I know your ancestor? You should, considering the two of you were on the same team when you became genin. Those words made him go still and look more closely at the man sitting beside him. It was the eyes, their color. It was the kind of meadow green he knew belonged to only one person. You're descended from Sakura. He bowed his head in answer. Grissom is my married name. I was born John Haruno. When I was a kid, I used to read the copies of Lady Sakura's diaries. I could have told them all without once looking at the source by the time I was 8. He was always rather proud of that. Lady Sakura? Naruto repeated. When did Sakura become a lady? If anything, he would have assumed her title would have been doctor. When she succeeded Lady Tsunade as the slug sage. Oh. It was the only thing he could think to say. And it was the last thing they said to one another for the longest time. Instead, they just sat there on the bench and watched the squirrels live their lives. It was a peaceful feeling and the Spectre enjoyed it, even if he had been surprised that a descendant of Sakura was sitting next to him. Little surprised you didn't ask how there was a Haruno clan, Grissom remarked. Not hard to think about, Naruto replied. I guess that some members of the Uchiha clan didn't get the Sharingan, felt a little out of place inside the clan, and chose to form their own. Yes, that's pretty much what happened. He was a little amazed he got it in one guess too. He saw the amazement and smiled self-deprecatingly. Sakura called me a moron a lot, huh? Frequently, at first, he admitted. But it dwindled as you got older. By the time the Fourth Shinobi World War happened, if she did write about him being stupid, it was quickly followed by how glad she was that he was okay. Naruto chuckled. Yeah, that sounds like Sakura. His feet had cooled off long enough and the bag was empty. He stood up and looked at the old man. It was a pleasure to meet you, John Grissom. As it was an honor meeting you, Naruto Uzumaki. Have a good day. You too. Remember what I said about the kids? He made an emphasizing jab before walking away. The modern legend watched the ancient head back down the street. Within seconds he had disappeared from civilian eyes. Grissom leaned against the bench, thinking about what they discussed. His eyes found the children again. The game seemed to be slowing down. Perhaps Naruto had been right about them. It wasn't too hard to write back to children. As he got up and walked away, he considered another notion. Perhaps he could reach and talk to someone else, someone he hadn't talked to properly in the longest time. Yeah, he could do that. What's more, he could look past the fact she worked at that damn academy. Codex Entry, Humanity and the Systems Alliance. Augustus Ursity. Augustus of House Ursity is one of the most prominent figures in the frontier, and the human race in general. More popularly known as the Great Bear, he was the eldest son of Matthias, head of House Ursity. When he was young, he shocked his family and the empire by refusing to acknowledge an arranged marriage made by his parents to a daughter of another noble house, to which House Ursity had close ties with. The night before the wedding, he escaped from where his parents had held him and enlisted in the military, taking the summoning contract of his house with him. Due to his unusual enlisting for a noble, he did not join as an officer, but rather as an enlisted man. His father pulled some strings to get him into the chosen men, thinking, like many others, that it would be just a ceremonial group. But when the rout of the chosen men occurred, Augustus was one of the survivors. During the survivors' hunt, he emerged as one of their leaders. When the chosen men returned to Farum victorious, Augustus received a field commission and continued to serve in the war, eventually commanding the chosen men and leading the empire's defense against Sasuke's march. He married during the war to one of the Fianna clans. As the story goes, he and his wife-to-be had thought the other to be an enemy, took shots at each other, and then wrestled before realizing that they were on the same side. His wife-to-be's clan joined the chosen men on their campaign and had them married after a major victory against the shinobi. Near the end of the war, during the night of quiet laughs, Augustus had been captured by the shinobi. The news of this quickly made its way to the Iron King. As he was essentially the reason why the empire had been holding out for so long, and the fact that shinobi forces were so close to the capital, they quickly asked for peace terms. When the war was over and Augustus was freed, he joined the ring as a military advisor and worked his way up to being the prime minister of King Michael Xi's son, Env. He was one of the best PMs ever to grace the frontier, even though his enemies would dispute that. In one of the most infamous moments during his time at court, a noble accused him of saying and doing things that were crass, crude, and socially unacceptable. He replied, "Good, I'm doing something right. This society's too stuffy anyway." Described as cheerful, energetic, but also blunt and honest, Augustus had a charisma that had many people believe in and follow him. When he was held prisoner, he was allowed to talk to the leaders of shinobi forces. Sasuke Uchiha once afterwards said, "If I didn't know he was still alive, I would think the dobe has come back to haunt me." Augustus would always later say that being compared to Naruto Uzumaki was the highest praise he ever received. Chapter 27. Take a left to go to Frozen Hell. Location: Noveria. "Hey, am I the only who thinks it's really windy out there?" Tali asked from where she sat in the Mako. Even though the Mako had heaters, she could have sworn that she felt the wind outside. She could certainly hear it, and the accompanying chill. "Tali, of course it's windy out there," Ashley said from where she manned the turret, doing her best not to sound sarcastic. "We could feel it when the commander opened the hatch to get on the roof." Never had she seen the man close the hatch so quickly. Gurus looked over at the blonde in question. "Speaking of which, you've still got a couple of icicles in your hair," he pointed out while he drove. The Spectre in the shotgun seat scowled. "Cammy, take it," he groused, raking his hand through his hair. "I thought I got them all out." "Obviously you didn't," Shikaku remarked. It was obvious the Tanuki was doing his best to not snigger. He scowled inwardly at him. "Not now, Shikaku," he ordered. "What? It's not like I'm giving you a headache." Kurama rolled his eyes. "You don't have to. This entire fucking planet has been giving the Gaki a headache since the Normandy entered the atmosphere." Naruto didn't even bother to deny the accusation. It was true, they both knew it. When the Normandy entered Noveria's atmosphere, they had been told that the defense grid was up and locked onto their position. Joker told them that they had a Council Spectre on board, but apparently, the person on the other side didn't believe them. It had taken Naruto personally threatening said person with a couple of horrible things he could do to make the defense grid unlock and get a place to land. The person warned them that if the story didn't hold up, the Normandy would be impounded. When the team finally got ashore, they were quickly met with a security team who were to confirm the identification and to take their weapons. Naruto told them who he was, which one of the guards called a load of horse crap, and that they were welcome to try and take his weapons. He said with a big smile and spread his arms wide. All of a sudden, they were uncertain as to how to continue. One of the guards nervously stepped forward when someone over an intercom told the guards that the identification had been confirmed and that Naruto's team could carry the weapons. After that, they went inside and, after a little episode with the weapons detector, met with the assistant to the administrator, one Gianna Parasini. In the conversation that followed, they learned Benizia had come to the planet, surprising Liara, and had headed straight for a place called Peak 15. When Naruto asked how to get there, he was told that he needed to get clearance from the administrator himself, a Salarian called Anolius. When he went to see the administrator to get said clearance, the meeting rapidly went sour. Anolius turned out to be a self-important ass that didn't think very highly of Naruto. He was more concerned about his computer than answering the Spectre's questions. Naruto did manage to find out that Benizia and by extension, Saren, had something to do with binary helix and that Benizia went to Peak 15 with heavy cargo and Asari commandos in tow. But when he tried to get out there, he was brushed off by the administrator who told him that a blizzard blocked off passage to the peak and they weren't going to give passes to the garage to use a Mako willy-nilly. That in turn led he and his team into a merry venture all around the port. First going to a Turian called Lorikin, they were soon directed into getting information out of his lab for a pass he had. When they got to the lab, it turned out that security was sent there by Anolius, illegally trying to find the same thing. Naruto got lucky convincing the people outside the lab into leaving, not so much with the ones inside. Once they were killed and the information was found, they tried to leave, only to find another group of security waiting for them, led by Ms. Horse Crap from the docks. She tried to threaten them, but Naruto wasn't in the mood. He put a bullet in her mouth while she was still talking and his team took care of the rest. When they left the lab, they had been intercepted by Gianna, who told them to meet her in the hotel bar. Naruto decided to go alone. Once he got there, he told her to get to the point. She revealed herself to be Noveria Internal Affairs and had been undercover investigating Anolius for corruption. She wanted the blonde to have Lorik testify against the administrator, and promised to help him with whatever he needed. Seeing a way to get the pass and get back at Anolius, who had seriously pissed him off, Naruto agreed. He convinced the Turian into testifying and watched in satisfaction as the Salarian was dragged away in cuffs. He got the pass and he and his team were able to get into the garage, grab a Mako, and started to make their way towards Peak 15. And that's where they were now, trying to drive a Mako through a blizzard so they could find Liara's mother. That wasn't as fun as it sounded originally, which is saying something. The Mako jostled around suddenly, rattling everyone. What the hell was that? Ashley demanded. Snowbank, Gurus answered, still focused on driving. Why didn't you use the micro thrusters? We're right next to a cliff. I don't plan on sending us flying over the edge. Besides, we're more than likely to have more. Oh great, something to look forward, Maya grumbled. Across from her, Rex snored. She glared at the napping Krogan. How in the bloody blue hell does he do that? She demanded. How does he do what? Naruto asked without turning around. Sleep in a Mako being driven by one of us. It honestly boggled her mind. Is that any different from a professional driving a Mako? Tali asked. Not really, no, Ashley answered. Rex could sleep through Quan Misley's driving, remember? There was a brief pause in the Mako before the Quarian answered. Yeah, I remember. That mission rescuing Liara and Maya wasn't going to leave their memories any time soon. Quan Misley always insisted that her driving wasn't that bad. Hang on, we've got something, Naruto announced, looking out the window. What is it? Asked the swagman amongst them. Well, what's before us is a bridge. And what looks to be, oh fuck. Oh fuck, she repeated, straining to see the front from her seat. Oh fuck is not good. Why are we oh fucking? We're not oh fucking anything. We're just saying oh fuck. Then why are we saying oh fuck? Could we please stop saying oh fuck? Gurus asked them. I'm trying to make we stay alive here. Then give me a straight answer, she demanded. He's saying oh fuck because there's quite a few Geth units in front of us with some shields and they're blocking our path. I'm also certain that they're packing some heavy stuff. Her silence filled the Mako. Oh fuck. Thank you, Naruto said. Oh, shut up. Listen to the woman, Gaki, Kurama told him. Who asked you? He asked. No one. I'm still telling you to listen to the woman. Could we perhaps stop with the word fuck and focus on getting through the bridge in one piece? Liara suggested with a short attitude. Actually, we could get across the bridge in one piece and still get killed, Gurus remarked. All they would have to do is just make sure this Mako gets set on fire and... Gurus, shut up and drive, the Asari ordered, cutting him off with a cold tone that brokered no argument. The others looked at her like they were seeing her for the first time. They had never heard that voice come out of the Asari. She was always the calm, if a little uncertain and shy, one. Sure, okay, Gurus agreed. Ashley, stand by with that turret. You know I am, she replied. He floored the gas and the Mako suddenly lurched forward, hurtling towards the bridge. The Geth didn't seem to be surprised at the sudden motion. They just started shooting. Gurus swerved to avoid the incoming rockets. When he was about to ram the shields, he hit the micro thrusters. The Mako flew up into the air, over the shields, and landed on the other side, jostling everyone around minus Rex. Are we clear? Tali asked. No, we still got Geth ahead of us, Naruto answered. Ash, care to take them out? Can't do that, sir, she answered, her back turned towards him. I'm a little busy dealing with the ones behind us. Fine, Gurus, drive past them and run them over if you can. You got it, he replied, keeping the gas pedal pressed down. Why didn't he just run them over in the first place? Maya asked. Do we really need to worry about that right now? Let's just focus on getting through this. The Mako blazed through the bridge, both figuratively and literally, with Ashley firing the turret with all she had. What missiles fired at them didn't stop Gurus. He got them to the other side in one piece. The Mako was fine too. Okay, what's next? An armature, Naruto told him. Ahead of them were a couple more shields, Geth, and the aforementioned Geth armature. Floor it. Got it. The Mako tore through the snow towards the mini barricade. Ashley turned the turret around, greeting them with gunfire. The armature was easily taken care of once the shields were whittled down, and the cannon took care of the rest. Gurus rode over the rest of the Geth, and used the micro thrusters over the shields. Once that was done with, the Mako drove on. Okay, we should be fine now, Naruto told the rest of the team. Somehow, I doubt that, sir, Ashley told him, still looking through the turret screen for any Geth that may come at them. She's right about that, Maya agreed. That won't be the only pack of Geth in our way. Things could not be that simple for them. Hey, a guy can dream, right? He asked rhetorically. Liara looked at him flatly. Why was he optimistic now? Just because you're going to dream doesn't mean it's going to happen, she told him. He looked back at her, frowning. You okay, Liara? He asked her. I'm fine, she said shortly. Her attitude seemed to dwindle, and she found herself looking at the floor. Really, you sure about that? He pressed. I'm fine, she said a little more firmly. Liar! Declared Isabu. Do you mind not doing that in my ear? His Jinchuriki asked him. Not waiting for an answer or taking his chances with Liara, he just looked at Maya before turning back around. The swagman got the hint and scooted a little more closely to her lover. Are you absolutely sure everything is okay, Shalia? She asked quietly. Tali could hear them, but pretended not to. Liara was silent for a long moment, and her silence worried Maya. No, it's not, she finally admitted. Why? Why do you think? She asked back. We're going after my mother. We both know that there's a good chance that we'll have to fight her. So you're afraid that we might lose the fight? It was a plausible fact. Matriarch Benizia was one of the more powerful Asari matriarchs in the galaxy. Fighting her would certainly be difficult in the wrong circumstance. She shook her head. No, I'm afraid that we might win. Maya stayed silent as that information entered her head and got processed. That was also a plausible fact. I can understand why you would be afraid of that, she finally said. Can you? The Asari challenged her. There was a slight bite to her voice. Yes, I can. If we were facing my mother, I don't think I would be able to go through with it. But you're here. I'm here because she is my mother. She knew that. They all knew that. There is no one here who will argue against that, Shalia. But even you must realize the fact that we may have to fight her. And if we have to kill her? The question hung in the air with an ominous feeling to it. It was a question that shouldn't have to be answered and yet was being forced to. Fortunately for her, Maya had an answer ready. If it comes to that, I will make sure that you won't have to see it. Suddenly, she found herself lifted up into the air, and then slammed back down. What the hell was that all about, Guris? She shouted up at the driver. Another bridge, another couple of shields, he answered, like it was no big deal. And you didn't think to warn us ahead of time? I hadn't braced for it. That wasn't my fault, you were talking to Liara. He kept his gaze through the window as he exited the bridge. Ashley, there's a turret right in front of us. Got it, she replied, swinging around and started shooting. She kept the fire on the enemy turret while Guris drove past it and made the corner. Did I destroy it? She wasn't sure if she had or not. They drove past too fast. I don't think that's going to matter, Naruto told her as things started getting rather bumpy in the Mako. People were bouncing around in their seats due to the snow underneath. Why's that? We've got another up on a ledge directly ahead of us. I'll get right to that, she replied, opening fire on the turret in question. This one she was fairly certain that she destroyed, as it went up in a ball of fire just as the Mako got close and began to turn. That takes care of that. Then you might want to take care of the next one, Guris said, driving past it. She started shooting at it, only to watch it disappear as the Mako turned the corner. She did think that she saw a flash of fire before it disappeared. How many turrets have the Geth put up? She demanded. From the looks of it, at least one more, Naruto commented, looking out the window and seeing another turret up on a ledge. On the other hand, I think we've arrived at peak 15. They were approaching a large building that was built into and on the mountain. The burning Mako remains outside the garage certainly helped. Oh great, that's a comfort. Just shoot the turret, Ash. Shooting the turret, Commander, she replied. The Geth turret blew up as they finally got close to the peak's entrance. Guris pulled the Mako to a stop. All right, we're here, he declared. That didn't take long, Rex commented, waking up. Maya glared at him. Only to you? Maya, please focus on what's coming, Liara said quietly. The swagman looked over at her, and how serious she was. All right, Shalia, I'll do that. Everyone out and make run for the entrance, Naruto ordered as he stood up from his seat. With the way the blizzard was going, that was the only way they were going to reach the small side entrance with any feeling left in their bodies. Tali was the nearest one to the hatch, and when she opened it, It was like a blast of icy air smacking everyone in the face. They all hopped out of the Mako and bolted for the entrance. Thankfully, they were able to see where to go. Location: Citadel. Chelik stopped by Rin's desk. "Rin, you got a moment?" he asked, absently scratching Shiramura behind the ears. She paused from her work and glanced at him. The way his eyes held hers, she knew it was about their task force. "Give me about 5 minutes. I could use a coffee break." "All right." He wandered over to the break room. The dextro coffee was good today. He enjoyed a few sips as Rin walked in and poured herself a cup. She took a sip, letting its healing power flow through her body. "So, what's up?" she asked him. Shiramura was resting by the door, keeping an eye out so they wouldn't be interrupted. "It's about Musashi." That wasn't surprising. "What about him?" "Ever since the ambush, he seems colder." That was the best word he could think of, but it also seemed lacking. He was glad they had the break room to themselves right now. "He's been busy." "Doing what?" "Hunting." And now that bad feeling in his stomach practically exploded. There was only one person he could think that Musashi would go after. "The Huntress?" he asked, his voice barely a strangled whisper. "He's going after the Huntress?" Rin nodded as she took another sip. "Yes, he has." The way she admitted it didn't sound right to him. It seemed too easy, too dismissive. If there was one thing Chelik knew about the task force, it was that they didn't do things solo. "Are you helping him, Rin?" "When I can." "Why haven't you two come to me?" She didn't answer him. He didn't like what that could mean. "What you're doing is above board, right?" "Not exactly," she answered evasively. The look he gave her spoke volumes. He was angry at being left behind but also disappointed. "Look, Chelik, we did it for your sake. If we go down for this, it's best if we don't take you along with us." Chelik was a cop to his bones. He believed in the Citadel law and made sure it was obeyed. He might get a little intense in his duties, but not with bad intentions. "That doesn't make this any better, Rin," he told her. "I know, but it's the truth." Her cup was almost empty. She could get a refill, but she would have to get back to work. "This isn't my decision, Chelik. You want it to change? Talk to Musashi." "I will." The coffee machine hissed as she refilled. "All right, but don't expect to make much headway. Remember, Musashi wasn't always a cop." He frowned confusedly. "What does that mean?" But Rin was already out the door, heading back to her desk with Shiramura beside her. Location: Noveria. Once Naruto's team stepped through Peak 15's entrance, it closed and the blessed warmth inside went to work on them. The room that they were standing in looked like a small antechamber. Once they left that, they were in the tunnel entrance that would have been used by the Mako. They looked at the door leading inside and they did not have install a good feeling about it. "How much does anyone want to bet that there's going to be an ambush beyond that door?" Rex asked. "No bet," Naruto answered. There was going to be trouble. They all knew that. "So, how should we deal with it?" "Hang on," Maya said, "I'll take care of it." She started taking off her gloves. Naruto noticed the move was practiced. It also looked familiar. "Are you planning what I think you're planning?" he asked her, backing up to give her more room. "Yep," she answered, already biting her thumb. "How far up are you planning to go?" "All the way to the top." Most of the team weren't sure just what they were talking about, Ashley and Quan Misley being the exception. His eyes widened slightly and quickly looked. "Do we even have enough room for that to happen?" She stopped in mid-hand seal and looked at him. "What? Did you think that because the toads were huge, so would every other summon?" If she sounded derisive, it wasn't intentional. Sometimes she forgot just how old he could be. "It's not just the toads," he said defensively. "It was also the slugs and the snakes." She rolled her eyes. "Elemental summons," she said mostly to herself. This time, the derision was a little more intentional. "Honestly, there are days where I think that their size is made up." "Trust me, they're not." He knew that from first-hand experience. "Well, trust me. I know what I'm doing." He looked at the others. "Okay, people, back it up," he ordered, waving them back. "Give her some room." Most gave him odd looks but did as they were told. Maya ignored him and finished the hand seals, slamming her bloody hand down on the ground. "Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning Jutsu." she cried. Smoke filled the area, obscuring everyone's view. If this had been any other alien team, they probably would have hit the ground and wondered who got hit by the explosion. But this wasn't any alien team. They had seen Maya perform this jutsu before, and they were expecting something similar. They got it, and yet they didn't. They had expected a gray kangaroo wearing boxing gloves. What they got instead was a red kangaroo that towered over all of them and was currently looking very intently at its summoner. Maya, the summoned kangaroo said, her voice letting the others know that she was a female. You have quite some explaining to do. The swagman bowed her head. I know, Big Mama, she said respectfully. Do you realize just how many times your father has asked me if I knew where you were? I imagine it's been a good amount. It's bordering on becoming triple digits. Oh, that wasn't good. She had a feeling she would have to talk with the kangaroos soon and have a good explanation. I'm sorry, Big Mama, but I didn't summon you just so I could explain myself. She pointed at the peak's entrance. There's probably an ambush waiting for us on the other side of that door. Could you please help us out? The female kangaroo looked at her. And why is it you can't do it yourself? We're all a bit frozen here and our reaction times will be slow just enough to get us killed. But if we stay here, they'll probably come to us. So you want me to go in there and ambush the ambush so you can warm up? The way she spoke implied they were idiots, but without saying it. Some of the team flinched. It would have been less painful if she had just said it outright. But it didn't stop Maya. Please, Big Mama. The kangaroo boss rolled her eyes. Fine, but I expect you to start talking to your family again. I will. I want your promise, Maya, she demanded. I promise to start talking to my family again. Once we're off this planet, and if I'm still alive, I will get in contact with my father. That wasn't going to be a conversation she was looking forward to, but she'd do it. You had better get off this planet alive. Otherwise I will drag your soul back from the afterlife so you can talk to your family. You can't do that, Big Mama. The red kangaroo bent down and looked the swagman directly in the eyes. Is that doubt I heard? She asked. Do you doubt me, Maya? Her eyes went wide and she shook her head rapidly. No, I'm not. I promise you that. I'm not doubting you. Good. She paused and started sniffing the air. What is she doing? Tali asked. She swung her head towards Liara. Why do you have Maya's scent about you? She demanded. Liara was completely unprepared for the question. She blushed hard and started to stammer. I'm Ella Liara, she introduced herself shakily. Why are you stuttering, and what is with the blushing? Is something wrong with you, girl? Fortunately for her, Maya quickly came to the rescue of sorts. Big Mama, this is Liara, she introduced the Asari to the kangaroo. We're together. She took Liara's hand and squeezed it gently. The kangaroo boss was silent as she looked at the two of them. There was no doubt in anyone's mind her eyes were judging. I approve, she declared. Maya's relief was obvious. I will be expecting joeys from you too. Don't disappoint me. Now it was Maya who was blushing hard. What does that mean? Liara asked, clearly confused by the choice of words. The swagman leaned in and whispered a few words into her ears. When she was done, Liara was blushing just as hard. If you're going to make me wait a long time, I will not like it, the female kangaroo told them. Now if you'll excuse me. She turned to the garage door and began hopping towards it. It opened, and she hopped through. Once the door closed behind her, everyone looked at Maya and Liara. Why would she approve of your relationship? Tali asked. The Claytons don't call her Big Mama for nothing, she replied. She sees the family as her own and protects it just as well. There's a story about when my father started seeing my mother, Big Mama had him bring her over so she could interview the woman. That doesn't sound bad, Guris remarked. He was beside the garage door, trying to listen on what was happening on the other side. Turian males have to do the same with the father of the girl they're dating. She looked at him. Do Turian family interviews include a ring, a bell, 5 rounds of fighting, and a pair of boxing gloves? No, they don't, he admitted after a long pause. He decided to go back to listening through the door. The others looked at her a little weirdly after that. Liara went with horror instead. Rex was the only one who looked like her words were no big deal. Sounds about right, he commented. That just swung the attention to him. What? The Krogan actually do that? Liara asked, growing more and more terrified. It also didn't help that they could hear gunfire and things getting crushed beyond the garage door. He shrugged. It's more outright brawling than boxing, but it's the same basic principle. If a Krogan wanted a female, he'd do anything to get her, even tear apart another Krogan. Of course, if the female didn't feel the same, that could cause even more fighting. Why would you ever want to do that? Gurus wondered out loud, looking back at the Krogan. He looked at him flatly. It's a recent development. Krogan males have to fight over fertile females so they can have the right to try and sire children. It's something that happened because of a genophage or something like that. It's not that big of a deal, he said, utterly deadpan. Gurus was silent for a moment. The sounds of a battle still going on beyond the door filled the air. I walked right into that one, he finally admitted. He most certainly did, Saiken agreed. Do you think that he'll need help with putting his foot in his mouth? Komiai wondered jokingly. If you two chuckleheads are done, I'm trying to listen to the fight on the other side of that door, Naruto said. Whatever Big Mama was doing, she was doing a very good job. They didn't reply, so he took it to mean that they got the point. Once that conversation came to a halt, everyone listened to the fight. The gunfire was accompanied by the sounds of stomping, crushing, as well as the earth around them seemingly shaking. But once those sounds fell quiet, a silence flowed in. No one needed to say that it felt heavy. The door opened and the kangaroo boss hopped back towards them. They're all taken care of, she told Maya. Thank you, Big Mama, the swagman said, bowing her head in thanks. Remember, I want joeys from you too, and I want them soon. I'll let your father know that you have my approval. She disappeared in a cloud of smoke before her summoner could even protest the idea of her father knowing. Once she was gone, Maya lost her respect. I can't believe she said that out loud, she groused. Let's just move, Naruto said, already heading for the door. The others followed him without any complaints or protests. The next room was surprising. By the goddess, Liara swore as she looked at all the damage and destruction. It was all caused by a single kangaroo. Bodies were crushed, wrecked, or just plain smashed. The same went for makeshift barricades and parked vehicles. Rex whistled. Now that's some good work, he declared as he looked on at the damage. A Krogan would be proud to say he had done this. He knew he was impressed. The intercom turned on, making them paused. User alert. All Peak 15 facilities have suffered a great deal of damage. Biohazard materials present through facility. Virtual intelligence user interface offline, an automated voice announced. That's not good, Tali declared. I think that's putting it lightly, Ashley remarked. How about we just get to the elevator? Gurus suggested. They all promptly went looking for the way into the peak. They found it off to the left, and up a ramp. They walked through the door and entered a short transition corridor. There was something that was rather particular. Why are the turrets facing the wrong way? Tali asked, staring at said turrets. They were facing the other door. I'm more concerned about whether or not they're active, Naruto told her. He glanced back at the turrets. Are they? She got the hint and activated her Omni tool. For a couple of seconds, the only thing they heard were her fingers taping. No, they're not, she finally answered, deactivating the Omni tool. It's really weird. Liara had an idea why it was so. They want to keep their people in as much as they want to keep others out, she said, her horrified expression from learning about the future interviews she may have disappearing. Instead, she looked like she was trying to remain calm. But why wouldn't the turrets be active then? The Quarian asked her. I don't know. That fact wasn't helping her attempts to be calm. Perhaps they weren't trying to keep their people inside, but something else, Ashley suggested from the rear. Everyone got a bad feeling. If the people in Peak 15 were trying to keep something in instead of their own workers, what exactly would that something be? Rex was the one who made them all stop thinking about it. What does it matter now? He asked. Whatever it is probably hasn't gotten out yet, otherwise those turrets would have been activated. Let's focus on finding Benizia. Good idea, Naruto agreed. They found the elevator quickly enough. It was just through the next door and to the left. They rode up silently. When the doors opened, they saw something surprising. What in the hell happened here? Gurus demanded as they stepped out. The room was completely covered in snow, probably reaching up to their knees. If I had to make a guess, I would say that a window cracked and snow blew in from said crack, Maya commented, having already found the offending cracked window. I can see that much. Then why did you have to ask the question? Because it needed to be asked, okay? Not really, no. We can already see the giant pile of snow. We don't need someone asking completely redundant questions. Liara, kiss your girlfriend so she'll stop talking, please, Gurus asked the Asari. Liara did as she was asked and kissed Maya full on the lips. There was a surprised sound from the swagman's throat, but it was soon replaced with a sound of pleasure. Everyone else looked elsewhere as the kiss continued, feeling a bit awkward at being there with two intimate people. When they were finally done, Maya gave Liara an appreciative look before turning to glare at Gurus. That was a low blow, she told him. It worked, didn't it? He asked in return. Okay, that's it. The two of you can stop now, Naruto said, joining the conversation. He fixed them both with a look. Please remember that we're on a mission here. We really don't have the time to argue about redundant questions. They conceded the point. The team walked forward through the snow-covered room to the next door. The next room had Geth waiting for them with guns pointing at the door. Ashley reacted first, folding her hands through hand seals. Right-on, Taka! The hawk made of lightning flew from her hands, striking the Geth in the front before leaping towards others in smaller charges. The first Geth went down, and the others went with it. That gave the team enough seconds to get out of the doorway and into the room. They split up, taking on Geth in their smaller groups. It was much easier to deal with instead of dealing as a whole. It was also effective, going by the number of Geth falling to the ground destroyed. How are we doing? Gurus asked, shooting a Geth unit through the headpiece. Fine, just fine, Rex replied as he bashed the butt of his shotgun against the Geth unit's arm, making it drop its gun. Tali took that opportunity to fire off a round from her shotgun, killing it. That's nice to know. Gurus, duck, Ashley said, like it was trivial. He did as he was told. She fired off a shot, hitting the Geth that was trying to shoot him. Thanks, he said as he got back up. Not a problem. Liara found herself against a wall alongside Maya. Hey, am I the only one who's getting cold feet here? She asked aloud as she shot at a Geth unit around the corner. Neither they nor the Geth had really gotten good shots at each other, but they still kept trying. Despite knowing that it wasn't the best of time, Maya looked at her with a raised eyebrow. Are you saying that you don't want to have a potential interview with Big Mama after all? She asked. Liara looked at her like she had lost her mind. I was talking about the snow, she replied, a little flustered. My feet are getting cold. Just move around. That's what the rest of us are doing. Naruto got behind the Geth and smashed it apart. Speaking of the rest of us, he said as the robot fell dead. How about less talking and more shooting? Sorry, they said together. The fight ended quickly, but that didn't make them relax. Something scurried through the pipes overhead, followed by a raw, animalistic shriek. They kept their backs to one another, and their guns drawn. Animals? Wind? This place is in bad shape, Tali declared. I think that would be putting it lightly, mate, Maya said. She heard a shriek near the wall, but there was nothing there. What in the name of the heavenly saints is that sound? I don't know. That felt unsettling for the Quarian. Rex, you've been to many a strange and weird place in the galaxy, Gurus said to the Krogan beside him. Any idea of what that noise is? No, but I would love to know what the sound of a quiet Turian would be like, he remarked. You hear that every time you shoot one dead. That's dying Turian, there's a difference. Naruto rolled his eyes. Am I going to have to schedule a monk or priest or something to come aboard the Normandy to marry the two of you? He asked them. They both swung their attention towards him, horrified. What the hell, Uzumaki? Rex growled. Why would you say something like that? The two of you already act like you're married, he answered with a straight face. Shikamaru and Temari acted the same. It wasn't a surprise to anyone when they got married. Both Turian and Krogan were very willing to argue that fact. Of course, they didn't have the chance. I've got contact, Ashley shouted, looking at the stairs. They all swung her direction, seeing the same thing she did. What the hell is that thing? Maya demanded. In all her years as a swagman, she had never seen anything like it before. It was some kind of bug, that much she could figure out. Naruto stared at the bug, examining it. It looks like something that would make the Aburame clan start to drool, he stated. To his surprise, the bug stared back. What does that have to do with what's in front of us, Commander? Have you ever seen an Aburame drool? That's an achievement just by itself. There have been times where I was convinced that clan had invented the deadpan. He was still sworn to secrecy about the time Shino couldn't stop laughing. What do you mean sometimes? Kurama asked him. You were convinced, period. When you were 11, you snuck into their clan compound to see if their history did mention the invention of deadpan. You make it sound like I got caught, but I got out safely. By the skin of your fingers, literally. If that toilet hadn't flushed, he would have been in a lot of trouble. Commander Naruto, whether the Aburame clan invented the deadpan or not does not really matter right now, Maya told him. What matters is figuring out what that thing is. It's a fucking arachne, Rex answered, spitting out the word. He had never seen one himself before, but he had listened to the stories and seen the images. Those who knew what that word meant instantly went into denial. That's impossible, Gurus declared, shaking his head. The arachne were declared extinct in 300 CE, Liara said, agreeing with him. There's no way that what's in front of us is arachne. I know what I'm looking at, and I'm looking at arachne, the Krogan said. And now, I'm going to kill it. He raised his shotgun and took aim at the insect. The arachne let out a screech that made them cover their ears. Even the Biju heard it. Ah, that's loud, Shikako complained. Why the hell is it doing that? He seems angry, Komiai commented. The Hanabi was the only one who didn't seem to be affected by the screech. Are you stating the obvious again? No, he actually seems angry. I think he heard Rex. Wait, you can understand him? Naruto asked. Kinda, his accent is a bit thick. That just sounded completely weird to him. How could his accent be a bit thick? More importantly, why are you the only Biju able to hear him? I don't know how, it just is. And that second one is obvious. He beat his wings once to emphasize his point. Fair point, forget that I said that. Not likely, Kurama said with a smirk. Anyway, he said, moving on before the fox could say anything else. What is the arachne saying? The Kabutamushi concentrated on listening to the screech. I may be wrong here. I mean, his accent is thick, but it sounds like he's calling for reinforcements. That got his attention. Shoot it! He shouted over the screeching, raising his guns. The team did the same. The arachne was already moving towards them at a quick pace, and there were more coming. Oh, by the spirits! Swore Gurus. Look out! Ashley shouted out as one of the arachne spat something from one of its appendages. It was green, and when it struck the snow where Liara had standing on a moment before, it hissed and melted through. Is that acid? Liara demanded, looking at said spot. Do you want to ask it? Rex demanded back, firing his shotgun again and again. It overheated and he started swearing in Krogan. What she was able to translate, she did not want to repeat. If they weren't in a battle, she might have blushed. Their weapons were holding the arachne back, but that was about it. Naruto needed something else. Biotics, start throwing! Naruto ordered, throwing a kunai at arachne. It nicked an appendage, making it squirt out acid. If the arachne felt pain from that, it didn't show. They were also capable of dodging biotics. Naruto needed something else. When he saw how thick their hides were, he had that something. Ash, I need you to throw a jutsu at them. Which one, sir? She asked, firing off a round. The one that every single Uchiha knows. She stopped, and, in spite of the fight, looked at him. I'm not an Uchiha, sir. He scowled. Now is not the time for splitting hairs, Ash. You've got the Sharingan. You know the jutsu that I'm talking about. Make it happen! As much as she wanted to argue, it was semantics. He was right. Katon, Gokaki no Jutsu, fire style, great fireball technique. She spat out the fireball directly at the arachne. For a moment, it engulfed them. Knowing that the fireball wouldn't last, Naruto acted. He quickly pulled out a few shuriken. Futon, Shinkajin, wind style, vacuum blade. He breathed the jutsu onto the shuriken, sharpening them even more. The fireball died and he threw. It happened just like he wanted. The fireball forced the arachne to cluster up, which made it easy targets. The jutsu-enhanced shuriken tore through their thick hides and killed them within seconds. They collapsed to the ground and didn't get back up. The team paused, waiting to see if more would come. They didn't. Phew, that was intense, Tali declared, lowering her weapon. Rex had a different opinion. What the fuck are Arachne doing here? He demanded, looking at everyone. Does it look like we know the answer to that? Geras asked back. Naruto could see an argument brewing between them. Sheesh, they really are starting to act like they're married, he thought to himself. He had to cut it off before he really did need to find a priest. Not the time, Geras, he told the Turian. Let's focus on moving forward. Everyone but Rex agreed. My question still remains, what the fuck are Arachne doing here? The Krogan said. I don't know, Rex. But I've got a feeling that we're going to find out soon, and we may not like the answer. Thanks for the encouragement there, mate, Maya told him. I would not recommend going into pep talks again, Sun told his Jinchuriki. Not if you say stuff like that all the time. Trust me, it's not, Gyurki assured him. Even so, I still don't think he should do pep talks. Are you kidding? Kurama asked the Yanbi. He's Naruto Uzumaki. He's all about the pep talk. Thank you, Furball, the blonde said to the fox. You're welcome, Gaki. The team headed towards the stairs while also stepping over the corpses of Arachne, careful not to disturb them. They found the next elevator quickly enough and rode it up. They walked through the corridor to the next room, which turned out to be a junction. Well, this is annoying, Maya said as she looked at the different exits. No, what's annoying is what's coming straight at us, Rex replied, raising his shotgun. They all saw what he saw, a small group of little Arachne coming right at them in quick speed. But they were quicker, and the problem was dealt with. What were those things? Ashley asked. They had exploded when shot, leaving no actual trace left. They were Arachne enough, said Rex told her. That may be, but they looked different. That warranted attention. They were smaller than the other ones, Maya pointed out. Maybe they're some kind of worker. Does it matter? Hey, Swagman, she answered, gesturing at herself. My job's all about the little details. Little details saved lives. Hey, Krogan, he replied, pointing a thumb at himself. My job's all about not giving a shit about the little details. Guys, focus, please, Naruto said to them both. They didn't say anything else because if they didn't focus, he would make them focus, and they both remembered what he did to Rex on Vermeer. As they walked into the room, Tali noticed something. It got her interest instantly. Hey, Commander, she called out. Do you see this? It was a block of some kind with plugs attached to it. It looked somewhat familiar, but aside from that, he couldn't place it. I'm seeing. What is it? He asked her. It's a backup power system. Must be for the station mainframe. Liara looked at it. The damage is not extensive. It could be repaired, she told them. How would you know that? Tali asked. She felt a little defensive, like her territory was being encroached upon. I took a class on engineering during university, she answered. The professor showed us how to fix a system just like this. I see. So she took a single engineering class and she knew what to do. Tali highly doubted that. Naruto heard the slight frost in her voice. Tali, are you jealous of her right now? He asked. No, I just think that she should leave the mechanics to the engineer. She took a class. I've been around them my whole life. I was just trying to help, Liara said, feeling embarrassed. Tali was right. She was the engineer, not her. The defeated tone made Tali look at her again. She listened to her words in her mind. It sounded like something her father would say. I'm not saying that you didn't, she told Liara, losing her tone. Just leave this kind of stuff to me. Speaking of which, get to it, Naruto ordered her. Everyone else, check the doors, see where they go. They started checking the doors. Tali's Omnitool lit up as she examined the system in. But when she tried to activate it, all she got was a voice saying critical startup error. Intelligence user interface offline. Manual boot required. Keela, she swore, pulling her hand away and deactivating her Omnitool. I take it's bad? Naruto asked. It sounded bad. She stood up from where she had been crouching. You heard it, Commander. We need to manually restart the 6. Oh, that's what it meant. She restrained the urge to roll her eyes, he wouldn't be able to see it. Yes, that's what it meant. Ashley looked back from one of the door panels. Commander, we have a problem. What is it, Ash? He asked, looking her way. The doors are offline. They're telling us to consult the 6. Same over here, Maya said from the other side. The urge to throw up his hands in exasperation was very strong. But he didn't. He was a professional. I don't suppose it ever came to you guys to try kicking the door down? He asked. Sir, with all due respect, we're not Sakura Haruno or Tsunade Senju, Ashley told him. He frowned slightly. You don't need to have their level of finesse. Cammy, I could do it. It was just a door. A more technologically advanced door, but still a door. We are most certainly not you, sir. He pinched the bridge of his nose. That wasn't what he meant. All right, where's the 6 we need to fix? Tali pointed the other end of the room. It is right there, Commander. At that end was some kind of structure, big and round. When he walked over and did a once around, he saw that it was hollow on the inside. Okay, now what? He asked. There was a pad inside the structure. He felt sure if he stepped on it, something would happen. The question was what would happen. Tali Chose answered the question. Hang on, I'll take care of it. She stepped onto the pad. It descended, taking the Quarian with it. Whatever she was doing down there, it didn't take her long. The pad came back up after half a minute. There you go, she declared. As she stepped away, the 6 appeared on the pad. It looks like you are trying to restore this facility. Would you like help? It asked. Naruto stepped forward. You're the 6, right? Redundant question it might, but it never hurt to check. This system is monitored to respond to the name Mira. May I ask your name? The 6 asked him. It spoke in a soothing voice not unlike an Aseris. It seemed a little odd to come from a human figure, though. Jonin Naruto Uzumaki, he answered. I'm a specter. One moment, please. It processed the information, taking only a moment. Council authority confirmed. You are entitled to secure access of all systems. Please note that queries relating to corporate secrets require privileged access. Privileged access is only available to binary Helix executives. Naruto looked quickly at Tali. Think you can change that? He asked. I wouldn't risk it, she replied. Not when we've got information at the ready right here. Good point. He turned his attention back to the 6. Mira said this system is ready to process queries. You may access me at any holographic interface within Peak 15. Benezia, where is she? Lady Benezia departed on the passenger tramway to the Rift Station subsidiary labs. There was a pause like it was done talking. But then it said, User alert. The tramway system is currently inoperable. The blonde had a feeling that wasn't the only problem this place had. He might as well ask the question. What's the damage in this facility? One moment, please. Diagnostics in progress. He fell silent as the 6 did what it was supposed to do. Critical failure. Main reactor shut down in accordance with emergency containment procedure. Manual restart required. Critical failure. Landmine connections are disabled. Passenger tram systems are offline. Report complete. Do you have any additional system status queries? Yeah, I do. Why the hell was the reactor shut down? He didn't know much about that kind of thing, but he knew that a shutdown reactor could not be good. I'm sorry, but I was offline at the time. Shutdown could occur if reactor breach seems likely, or in the case of catastrophic laboratory containment failure. Emergency guidelines suggest a frigid environment will kill biological contagions. It may also damage mechanical ones. The words confused. It all sounded so technical. Translation, please? He asked his team. She means someone turned off the heat in hopes that the cold will put whatever was unleashed to sleep, Tali explained. Not a bad idea. Okay. He turned back to the 6. What do I need to do to get the power back? The valves to the helium-3 fuel line must be opened. This can be done at the controls on the reactor assembly proper. Alright, that answers that question. Now what are the landlines and why were they disabled? The landlines connect my mainframe here at Central Station to the various sub-facilities of Peak 15. This allows the crew to remotely access my database from the comfort and security of their labs. When emergency protocols were implemented within the hot labs, the cabling was automatically ejected. In other words, they can't find out what the hell happened and they can die in confusion and fear, Saiken stated. Not if I can help it, Naruto said. What do we need to do to fix the landlines? The landlines were designed for easy reconnection. The router for the landlines is on the roof of operations. Simply activate the controls, and the hardware will reconnect and reboot automatically. Okay, what exactly happened here then? He didn't get an answer because the six disappeared all of a sudden. Whoa! What did I do? He asked, taking a step back and keeping his hands in plain sight, showing that he hadn't touched anything. Tali knew that he hadn't touched anything. It looks Mira is still restarting herself, she said. It's not your fault, Commander. He was relieved to hear that. In any event, we've got our work cut for us, Geras commented. Naruto gave him a look. When have we not? Location Citadel. Chelik knocked on the apartment door before stepping in. Musashi, you in? He called out. Musashi came out of his bedroom, one hand on his gun, the other on his bakken. He relaxed slightly when he saw the Turian at his door. Hey, Chelik, he said, lowering the gun. Good thing you announced yourself. I would have shot you. He disappeared back into the bedroom. Yeah, good thing. He closed the door behind him. He heard a drawer open and then close. Listen, I want to talk to you. He came back into sight, leaning against the doorframe. What about? His posture and tone was defiant. But there wasn't any need for it. Rin told me about what you guys are doing. Why didn't you include me? I thought we were at least partners in this, Musashi. He refrained from saying friend. He thought they were, but maybe Musashi didn't. The human smiled. You want to say friend, don't you? Chelik nodded honestly. I think we're friends too, Chelik. That's why I kept you out of this. We already lost one guy because of this. I'm not risking another. You're letting Rin help. If he didn't know better, he'd say it was because Musashi wanted her close. The two of them always seemed to be on the border of flirting with each other. Musashi shook his head. No, when the time comes, I'll keep her out of it too. That way, you both will have plausible deniability. He pushed off the frame, walking over to the kitchen. Chelik didn't like the sound of that. What do you mean? You're planning on arresting the huntress, aren't you? The scoff came instantly. Be serious, Chelik. Do you honestly think that if we arrested the huntress, she'd stay behind bars? They both knew she wouldn't. None of the tribe members they arrested had. Hell, I'd be willing to bet my badge she would be out within the day. So what? You're going to kill her? Yes, he said simply as he opened the fridge. I'm going to kill her. And when I kill her, I'm going to make her regret ever attacking us and thinking she could get away with it. There was something about he said those words that chilled Chelik's spine as he watched his friend look in the fridge. They weren't emotionless. Rather, they told him that his friend would inflict horrible pain on the huntress when he killed her, and he would enjoy every second of it. He knew Musashi had no problems with handling his prisoners a little roughly, but this was something else, something different. He didn't like it. You want a beer? Musashi asked, pulling his head up. I've got some dextro brews. No thanks, he said, doing his best to sound normal. How Musashi could sound so normal after what he just said made him nervous. I've got to go. He turned around and walked out. He had been inside the apartment not more than 10 minutes, and he left with a completely different picture of his friend, one he wasn't sure he liked. Rin had said Musashi hadn't always been a cop. So what was he before? Whatever it was, Chelik knew that was why he could sound so callous when talking about killing. Codex Entry, Technology Systems Alliance Grimoires. In the frontier, grimoires were handwritten magical manuscripts that contained formulas and spells, a good number of which was written in Agam, and even drawings of findings made by the author, equivalent of the scientific journal today. One may even say that the sealing scrolls that shinobi use are a form of grimoire, or vice versa. Each grimoire is a leather-bound book with chakra-infused parchment pages and metal fittings. The tradition of grimoires continues to this day, when seal masters from the frontier graduate from the library in the Empire of Steel. Instead of diplomas, a graduate gets their first grimoire to symbolize the completion of his or her education. Upon graduation, graduates are also given a key to their respective grimoires which is coded to their chakra signature. If the key is inserted into the lock, and the chakra signature does not match, a special seal works quickly to disintegrate the book to the molecular level, effectively atomizing it and scattering the remains to the proverbial winds. This safeguard was discovered by the Citadel when a Spectre agent successfully stole one from a Seal Master who traveling from one of the Alliance colony worlds to Earth. They unlocked the book only for it to turn to dust in their hands. Said Spectre was caught by the grimoire's owners soon after the book's destruction of the book and was promptly executed when the ship reached Earth. Hot link, news/Spectre humiliated. Book of Secrets destroyed.